Chapter 672. Seeing Brother Changyang Hu Xianger. Whom might this senior be? Changyang Ba asked. Despite knowing that his son was a saint ruler, he still didn't dare neglect his etiquette towards another one. Husband, this is the patriarch to my Bai family. Not even letting Jianshan speak, Bai Yintian beat him to the punch. Changyang Ba was startled, looking at Bai Hai. He couldn't understand just how Bai Yintian would suddenly have her family patriarch appear here. But he quickly recollected himself, and cupped his hands in greeting to Bai Hai. Junior Changyang Ba pays his respects to the patriarch. This junior pays his respects to the senior. Following Changyang Ba's example, the other high-ranking members of the cupped and bowed their hands in respect to him. Each and every single one of them knew that the ability to create a barrier was something only a saint ruler could do. But none of the doyens of the clan could hardly contain themselves. Not a single one of them thought that the figure right besides Bai Yintian would also be a saint ruler. Patriarch, this is my father. Jianshan introduced Bai Hai to Changyang Ba. The expression on Bai Hai's face didn't change. Instead, he measured Changyang Ba up and down with an indifferent look. While your talent is mediocre, you gave birth to an exceptional son. Well done. The earlier part to Bai Hai's words made Changyang Ba feel rather embarrassed. The fact that a person of his age could break through to become an Earth Saint Master was already considered quite decent, but it was by no means on the level of a genius. However, it also didn't mean that he was bad either. So when Bai Hai commented that he was mediocre, Changyang Ba felt slightly depressed. But the later half of Bai Hai's words filled him up with the utmost pride. Having a son as accomplished as Jianshan was an achievement any father would be proud of. In the future, you needn't call me patriarch. Just call me grandfather. Bai Hai spoke. Yes, grandfather. Bai Yintian, Changyang Ba, and Jianshan responded. Soon after, Changyang Ba invited Bai Hai to the center of the manor to discuss. Due to Bai Hai's status and absolute strength, he received the most warmest of welcomes from the entire clan. Even Jianshan and Bai Yintian accompanied him to the halls while talking. Never did any matter relating to the Bai family ever come up, however. 2 hours later, the group assembled in the halls finally scattered apart, and for the time being, Bai Hai took up residence in the manor. In Changyang Ba's room, Changyang Ba and Bai Yintian sat by a table to talk to one another. Changyang Ba looked to Bai Yintian with a conflicted look. Yinner, could you possibly tell me what in the world is going on? Why has a saint ruler suddenly appeared in our manor? Was your previously family not a small one? In the past, Changyang Ba asked Bai Yintian of her family, but Changyang Ba had only thought that the Bai family was a small familial power to some small city, since he had never heard of the name before. But when a saint ruler from the Bai family suddenly appeared out of nowhere today, he finally realized that the Bai family wasn't as unordinary as he thought. Bai Yintian sighed. Husband, I beg your forgiveness for hiding so many things from you. Long before, I was experiencing some sorrows, and the true events that happened to my Bai family was not an easy matter to talk about. I can understand that. Yunner, if things aren't convenient to talk about, then there is no need to talk about it. Changyang Ba spoke. Bai Yintian shook her head softly. Now that I've finally found the patriarch to my family, due to the help of Xianger, there's no need to hide it anymore. You should know about the circumstances to my family. Afterwards, Bai Yintian explained the entire story of what happened to the Bai family to Changyang Ba, so that he could understand the story. After listening to Bai Yintian finish the epic that was her family history, Changyang Ba was very quiet for a long time. His mind was completely shocked at what he had just listened to. A saint ruler that looked after a 1,000-year-old family. A family that even the Changyang clan couldn't possibly hope of using to scale in power. Changyang Ba could never have imagined that the fourth wife he chose would possibly be related to such a powerful family. It was all very hard to take in. It took a long time for Changyang Ba to finally calm himself. His face was still filled with conflicting emotions, however. Yunner, he sighed. I've never thought that you'd have such an identity. You must have felt burdened by these secrets. If the patriarch to your family didn't appear today, I'm sure you would have hidden this secret from me my entire life. Husband, I have my troubles. The enemies to the Bai family are strong, and even my patriarch stands no chance against them. For that reason, I never told you in case that news would leak out. Even though there is that chance today still, husband, I hope that you will keep my secret. It must never reach the ears of an outsider. Bai Yuntian repeated seriously. Nodding his head, Changyang pledged, I understand. Be at ease, my wife. Your family's secrets will be safeguarded by me. But we must find an excuse to tell the doyens of the clan as well. In a very remote part of the Changyang manor, there was a small courtyard. It wasn't too big, but there was a small 2-story pavilion with a garden of its own to be seen. It was quiet in this courtyard with not a single person to be seen. Even the soldiers patrolling nearby didn't dare go near. This courtyard felt almost abandoned and not important to the entire manor. But despite this, there were actually 8 strong-looking soldiers standing as still as statues around the place. Their glares were intimidating, and their expressions were blank. They represented the elite soldiers of the clan, and were all great saint masters in strength. At this moment, a white-robed youth came striding forward to walk into this small courtyard. Upon seeing this youth, the 8 soldiers immediately felt shocked, but then a reverent look entered their eyes, and they stood straight to attention to greet him. We pay our respects to the 4th master. As soon as the youth came walking by, the 8 soldiers bowed at the waist to greet him respectfully. This youth was Jian Shen. There's no need for such etiquette. How has my eldest brother fared recently? Jian Shen asked the 8 soldiers kindly. If I may report, 4th master, the eldest master has been in his room almost every day. Very rarely does he come out. One soldier reported to him. Jian Shen nodded his head with a conflicted look in his eyes as he regarded the faraway mansion. Sighing to himself, Jian Shen strode inside. The small pavilion was spotless with simple furniture and decoration to be seen here and there. Not a single item that could be seen as invaluable was placed inside, and it looked more like the house of a peasant farmer. Such a plain decorated interior made this place feel extremely offbeat in comparison to the entire Changyang manor. Sizing up the pavilion, Jian Shen then looked to the wooden stairs that lead up to the 2nd story. Without bothering to hide his entrance, Jian Shen took one step at a time across the wooden boards, so that they would creak loudly at every step. 4th brother, is that you? A simple-sounding voice called out to Jian Shen's ears. It was a voice that was filled with warmth. It was the voice of Jian Shen's eldest brother, Changyang Hu. Big brother, it's me. Your 4th brother has come to see you. Jian Shen called up from down below. Scaling the stairs, he quickly made it up onto the 2nd floor. 4th brother, you've come. I knew I heard your voice just then. Come, someone help me up. Changyang Hu's voice shook with a nervous excitement. As soon as Jian Shen entered the room where Changyang Hu was, he could see his limbless brother being attended to by 2 maids onto a wheelchair. This slave pays her respects to the 4th master. Upon seeing Jian Shen, the 2 maids attending to Changyang Hu curtsied to Jian Shen. Chapter 673. Breakthrough into the Saint Ruler Realm 1. You 2 may leave. Jian Shen spoke plainly to the 2 maids there. Yes, 4th master. The 2 maids bowed respectfully to him, before making a gentle retreat from the room. Jian Shen looked to his wheelchair-bound brother. At the moment, Changyang Hu was wearing a simple blue-colored robe. Since he was limbless, the sleeves to the robe clung helplessly to the side of his body and wheelchair. Compared to the him before, there weren't any major changes, but Jian Shen could sense that in Changyang Hu's eyes, there was a hint of color to them, rather than the dulled despair that one would normally expect from someone of his situation. From Changyang Hu's gaze alone, Jian Shen could tell that he was already accepting of the fact that he was limbless, and was ready to move on from that fact. It was something that made Jian Shen feel rather comforted by. Eldest brother, you've suffered greatly. How have you fared these past few days? Jian Shen arrived by Changyang Hu's side and spoke in concern to his brother. Changyang Hu was excited, however. Smiling, he looked back at Jian Shen. Ha ha ha, 4th brother. There's no need to worry about your big brother. Even though I've lost my limbs and became a cripple, I've felt rather calm these past few days. I've thought a lot recently, and I came to realize something. The previously calm life I felt to be boring isn't so bad. I'm tired of the days of fighting and killing. A life like this has grown on me. Just based on Chang Yanghu's facial expressions, Jianchen could tell that Chang Yanghu was being honest. He couldn't sense a single lie or fabrication from Chang Yanghu's lips, meaning that his eldest brother truly did feel this way. Big brother, you can rest assured now. Your 4 limbs will come back soon. Wait until your 4th brother becomes a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master. That'll be the day you recover completely. Jianchen pledged. Ha ha ha, 4th brother. Your big brother will wait for that day then. I might be accustomed to this type of lifestyle, but not having limbs can be rather inconvenient. I always need someone to help me, so if I can recover my limbs, that'll be for the better. Chang Yanghu laughed. Compared to before, the Chang Yanghu of today was in great spirits. The contrast between the two was so great that it felt as if they were completely different persons. To him, recovering his 4 limbs wasn't so that he could return to the life of cultivation, traveling or fighting. He wanted those limbs back merely so that he could live his life in convenience. In the time since Jianchen last saw him, Chang Yanghu had lost all of his heroic ambitions. Realizing the great transformation his brother underwent, Jianchen wasn't quite sure if he could call this situation a good or bad thing. And for a moment, it caused Jianchen quite a small amount of concern. But then something suddenly caught Chang Yanghu's attention. Staring strangely at Jianchen, he spoke. 4th brother, would you verify the news your big brother heard recently? I heard that you broke through to go from a heaven saint master to become a saint ruler. Is that true? Smiling, Jianchen replied. Big brother, what you heard is a half-truth and a half-lie. Half-truth and a half-lie? Chang Yanghu asked suspiciously. Big brother, I am still but a heaven saint master and not yet a saint ruler. But because of some other factors, my battle strength is comparable to some of the weaker saint rulers. That's why some people have mistaken that I've become a saint ruler. Oh, I see now. But 4th brother, you've achieved so much at your age. As a big brother, I can only feel pride at your achievements. With your talent, 4th brother, your big brother has no doubts that you'll become a genuine saint ruler in no time at all. Chang Yanghu laughed. His personality was a lot calmer than before, but knowing that his 4th brother had the strength of a saint ruler was enough to bring forth a tremendous wave of excitement to him. And yet, it was far harder to see his excitement compared to the other doyens in the clan. His heart was practically as immovable as a boulder. Big brother, let me bring you on a stroll around the manor. You must have felt bored staying in this room all day. Jianchen suggested before pushing the wheelchair out from the pavilion. 4th brother, why not take a stroll around the courtyard? There's no need to go beyond that. Your big brother doesn't really like staying in places with other people. It's rather noisy, and your big brother enjoys the quiet places now. It's the only way I can feel at peace. For the entire day, Jianchen spent the time with Chang Yanghu before finally leaving. During that time, he spoke plenty with his brother, and from his brother did Jianchen learn several things. Because of the great transformation his eldest brother had, Jianchen couldn't help but feel at times that his brother had seemingly seen enlightenment and broke free from the secular world. As it were, Chang Yanghu felt rather unselfish for anything and desired nothing. Even an important matter like the return of his limbs weren't anything that bore major impact on his future life or mood. It almost felt as if having limbs or not bore no difference at all to Chang Yanghu. That night, Jianchen went to the room by Hai was in for a small chat, before then returning to his own room to rest. His room was magnificently decorated with great furniture and decorations. Sitting at the center of his bed, Jianchen held a space ring in his hand. It was the space ring Situ Qing left behind with all of his possessions in it. Situ Qing was an extremely wealthy person, I see. Several dozen purple cards to his wealth? There has to be more to this, I'm sure. I wonder just how many purple coins there are in total, though. Jianchen sighed to himself after looking at the contents of the space ring. Situ Qing was a saint ruler that lived for over 1,000 years after all. As a hermit saint ruler, the items he amassed over the years surely had to be precious. It was definitely not something a heaven saint master could compare in wealth. And every precious item in the space ring had at times confused even Jianchen on what they were. Taking out a thick book from the space ring, Jianchen looked at the cover of the book to read out the calligraphic words, Secrets to the Dragon and Tiger. Seeing the words on this book, Jian Chen's eyes lit up. Flipping through the pages, Jian Chen's smile grew wider and wider with each page read. So this was a heaven-tier battle skill. This has to be the resting skill that Situ Qing hid away on him. Studying the heaven-tier battle skill for a moment, Jian Chen thought to himself, now that the Changyang Manor has become powerful with everyone within distance knowing of it, we should have the strength to protect these heaven-tier battle skills. I can place these books here at home, and wait for a day to let father cultivate them then. In a flash, the treasures that the sect of Dragon and Tiger once held was quickly redistributed and reclassified by Jian Chen as treasures for the Changyang clan. Putting aside the book, Jian Chen took a second look at the contents of the space ring. Half a moment later, a circular scroll came tumbling out from the space ring. The shortcut to becoming a saint ruler, could this possibly be it? Jian Chen's eyes blazed with excitement as he stared at the scroll in his hand. The item that Jian Chen desired most from Situ Qing's space ring was the acclaimed shortcut that would help him break through to become a saint ruler. Immediately untying the rope that held the scroll tight, Jian Chen unfurled the scroll in front of him. It wasn't that big in size and was only a meter in length. The parchment was soft, and it felt more like fur rather than paper to the touch. But when Jian Chen's eyes fell upon the scroll, he couldn't help but rub his eye in stupefied shock. The reason for that was because of the fact that both sides to this scroll was completely white. Not a single character could be seen on it, nor a splotch of ink. It was completely white paper. Chapter 674. Breakthrough into the Saint Ruler realm. Did I find the wrong thing? The shortcut Situ Qing was talking surely isn't this scroll. Jian Chen stared vacantly at the scroll in his hands. Muttering to himself, Jian Chen thought of something at once, and placed the scroll down to continue to rifle through the space ring. Not too long after, 3 more scrolls came out from the space ring. These 3 scrolls were made from ordinary beast fur. Material so common that it could not at all be considered precious. But Jian Chen didn't neglect the existence of these 4 scrolls for that reason. Opening up each and every one of these scrolls, Jian Chen laid them side to one another, but the effect had only left him in disappointment. While there were marking to be seen, it was all the writings of Situ Qing, and his writings of several rather unimportant things. Other than that, there was nothing else on anything important such as breaking through to become a saint ruler, and certainly nothing that could help Jian Chen. Rather disappointed, Jian Chen placed the 3 scrolls down onto the bed, and continued to look into the space ring with renewed vigor. But no matter how many times he looked through the space ring, he couldn't find a 5th scroll. What in the world is that scroll that can help one become a saint ruler? Why can't I find it? Is it because it isn't in Situ Qing's space ring? Jian Chen thought. Impossible. Such a precious item can't possibly be put elsewhere. According to logic, it has to be on his person. Jian Chen thought in contrast to his previous thoughts. Taking the scrolls he found earlier, he placed them out again for another look. In the end, all he could see was a blank canvas. Other than that, there was nothing else of unordinary stature. Looking at the blank scrolls again and again, Jian Chen was trying his best to try and find whatever secrets there was to it. Just at that moment, the mind space within Jian Chen's head shook violently as the fragments of the mysteries of the world, he first absorbed in the holy ground of Mercenary City, began to hop violently, as if drawn to some sort of mysterious source. Unable to stop himself from closing his eyes, Jian Chen felt his spirit suddenly bring these fragments into the material world from his body. Forgot about me? It seemed to ask from the chaotic space in front of him. Just barely, Jian Chen could feel his spirit reach an extremely vague connection with the blank scrolls in front of him. It almost felt as if these scrolls were harmonizing with his spirit to become one with his body. At the same time, the blank white scrolls in Jian Chen's hand began to glow a faint golden light. Suddenly detaching itself from Jian Chen's hand and floating in midair, it began to turn. Golden runes began to float into the air, as well before forming some sort of strange and mysterious runic formation. As soon as these runes materialized, the entire space around it began to twist and distort at its touch, as if it were being attracted by the surrounding space. And, A strange energy suddenly materialized into the place, before converging in the middle of the room to float there. This blank white canvas now had a strange power to it. It was awakened by the fragments of the mysteries of the world from Jian Chen's mind. And these fragments were seemingly undergoing some sort of strange evolution. Shutting his eyes tight, Jian Chen felt the connection between his spirit and the scroll grow even stronger. And the evolved mysteries of the world from the scroll began to grow extremely distinct to his senses. Completely letting go of his body, Jian Chen forgot himself for a brief moment as he entered a state of enlightenment. In this one moment, he could feel his spirit harmonizing with the world itself. The two were completely indistinguishable from one another, and every aspect of the world and its mysteries began to appear in his mind in a vague manner, rather than clear. From another room Bai Hai was taking residence in, the cultivating Bai Hai suddenly found his eyelids opening up. There was a flicker to his body before he disappeared from the bed to reappear outside his room. Both of his lively bright eyes were now looking off into the direction where Jian Chen was. My grandson is comprehending the mysteries of the world. He's about to break through, he muttered to himself with an ecstatic glee. As a saint ruler, he was deeply in tune with the mysteries of the world and its energy. And with the distance he was away from Jian Chen, he could tell that it was him that was undergoing this period of enlightenment. Bai Hai stared at the direction of Jian Chen's room for a moment longer, before the smile on his face quickly receded from it. But it seems he's still lacking the control. My grandson hasn't yet grasped the deepest concepts of controlling the energy of the world. That is a step hard for any heaven saint master wishing to become a saint ruler. The faint golden light that was illuminating off the scroll next to Jian Chen's head continued to evolve the mysteries of the world. And in Jian Chen's mind, he was slowly being fed this evolved form to experience a new strange world. With the help of this scroll, Jian Chen was growing a deeper and deeper level of comprehension of the mysteries of the world. These mysteries were becoming more and more clear to Jian Chen, and he could feel himself growing one step closer to becoming a saint ruler. Under this process of understanding the mysteries of the world, Jian Chen felt himself lost to the passage of time. He had no idea just how much time was going past, but soon came a point where Jian Chen felt so close to becoming a saint ruler that he was practically touching it. But it was at this one moment that he felt this small membrane of a gap become a mountain gate that was extremely difficult to climb. No matter how much he tried, he could not step past this gate. These scrolls could only evolve a small portion of the mysteries of the world. For the sixth cycle Heaven Saint Master, they'd be able to take a shortcut to become a saint ruler, but it would not help them make the breakthrough completely. One would still have to depend on their own understanding of the world to continue on. And Jian Chen had a very lacking basis of the understandings of the world. As a Heaven Saint Master, he was lacking in complete comprehension of the energy of the world and how to harness it. Thus, even when he absorbed the fragments of the mysteries of the world, he was unable to take the opportunity to become a saint ruler. These fragments of the mysteries of the world were not enough for a recently broken through Heaven Saint Master to become a saint ruler. Slowly, the golden light that was emanating from the scroll started to grow dim, and the light golden runic words that came from the mysteries of the world, too, started to fade, without the assistance of the white scrolls. And so, Jian Chen began to feel himself slowly being pulled away from this state of comprehension. Sensing the change, Jian Chen felt extremely unwilling in his heart. He was just lacking this one final step. If he could do it, he'd be able to go from a Heaven Saint Master to a saint ruler. This was the realm that he was constantly yearning for. Am I really going to fail just like that? Jian Chen howled to himself in extreme unwillingness to stop right there. Chapter 675. Breakthrough into the Saint Ruler Realm 3. The evolved mysteries of the world slowly started to recede from the blank scroll, and the worldly energy that had filled the entire room too started to fade away. As it appeared, the chance for a Heaven Saint Master to become a saint ruler was nearing an end. By now, countless of people were converged right in front of Jian Chen's room. Of these people, they included the lord of the clan and his 4 wives. Even Changyang who normally preferred peace and quiet, was wheeled to the front of his room as well. Besides them, there were also the doyens of the clan. Right by Bai Hai's side was an eye-catching purple-robed middle-aged man. This man was the king of the Jesson kingdom. 2 days had elapsed since the beginning of this event. Just enough time for news of Patriarch Bai's return to be sent by Bai Yuntian, all the way to the imperial palace for Bai Hai to hear. As soon as he heard both the patriarch and his beloved nephew had returned, Bai Dao had sprung to his feet and immediately asked of the king to return to Lore City. As expected, the king himself had long since heard of the rumors regarding Jian Chen. He knew that his future son-in-law was in existence as strong as a saint ruler. So when Bai Dao told him that Jian Chen had returned home, the king immediately started the preparations for them to travel to Lore City. It's been 2 days already. Has my beloved son-in-law managed to break through to become a saint ruler yet? The king's eyes would occasionally glance at Jian Chen's room as he spoke of the others. Ever since he came to the Changyang Manor, he and the others had stood right in front of Jian Chen's room for practically the entire day and night. It's unfortunate that we don't know what's going on. We wouldn't dare bother Xiang'er for no reason during such an important event like this. If not for grandfather's knowledge to tell us Xiang'er was attempting to make the breakthrough, we would have never known what exactly Xiang'er was going through. All we can do is hope for his success to become a saint ruler. Changyang Ba's eyes flickered here and there to look around the enormous manor in an apparent sign of anxiety. This moment of ascension was playing heavily at Changyang Ba's nerves. Xiang'er is extremely talented beyond all else. I know that he'll succeed. Jian Chen's second aunt Yu Fengyan spoke with a quavering voice. She had been one of the few to hear from Bai Hai's lips that Jian Chen was currently trying to become a saint ruler. By her side was Bai Yuntian, whose entire body was shaking nervously. Her 2 hands were clasped together in prayer, and anxiety filled up her entire body. She did not get any sleep at all for an entire day and night. Only a few years have passed, and Xiangtian is already showing so much promise. He's already outgrown we of the previous generation, and reached a height we can only look up to and yearn for. How unexpected, for we of the Bai to have such an outstanding descendant. It makes my heart feel as if there is nothing to fear. The stern-looking man right next to the king exclaimed. This stern-looking man was Jian Chen's uncle Bai Dao. Right behind them all were the high-ranking members of the Changyang clan, who were hoping for Jian Chen's success. His parents weren't the only ones desperately hoping for Jian Chen's success. The doyens of the clan were too. In a remarkably well-decorated room, Bai Hai sat on his bed with his eyes closed shut. He hadn't bothered to be checking up on Jian Chen like the others were outside, since with his ability, he could clearly see what the situation was looking like for Jian Chen straight away. Suddenly, his eyes flew wide open, and a look of regret appeared on his face. Alas, it seems he could not do it. He sighed. My grandson is lacking in the fundamentals. An extremely rare opportunity was placed right in front of him, but he couldn't grasp it. In Jian Chen's room, the evolved mysteries of the world were slowly fading away, inversely bringing Jian Chen out from his enlightened state of being. He was unable to cross that threshold to become a saint ruler, and now the distance to becoming one was growing farther and farther away. Jian Chen let out a sigh of disappointment. He had tried his best, but becoming a saint ruler was by no means an easy task. Despite the fragments of the mysteries of the world assimilating with him, and that scroll to help him evolve the fragments, he still couldn't make up for the difference. As a result, he failed to make the climb up. But then, a sudden but unmistakable white glow began to emanate from his space ring. Inconceivably quick as it appeared, the 3 beast furs of mysterious origins somehow managed to fly out from his space ring without Jian Chen's doing. At the current moment, these 3 beast furs were still rather mediocre looking, but there was a faint white glow that seemed to form an incomplete map, as if following some sort of rule. The aura that was spilling out from the beast fur now felt as if it contained some aspect of the world in it. This aura, not too far away from Jian Chen, Bai Hai could immediately sense the familiar aura of the 3 beast furs. He had once used one of the beast furs to successfully break through to become a saint ruler, so its aura was deeply ingrained in his memories. This has to be the aura from the beast furs. After slumbering for so many years, it has awakened once again. Excellent. This is far too excellent. With that beast's fur, my grandson will definitely have a better chance of becoming a saint ruler. The regretful look on Bai Hai's face was wiped away to reform a look of glee. Shortly afterwards, Bai Hai stepped down from his bed to exit his room, so that he could personally see the divine show that would take place. Half the day passed by in this manner, turning the day into late afternoon. The skies were without a cloud, and the sun was bright and sunny as it rose up towards the west. But the light it illuminated from itself was still extremely bright. A group of people stood in front of the Changyang Manor. For the entire day and night, none of them left the area. Not even their legs moved from the spot. But none of them felt tired even despite not having food or water. Just at that moment, a multicolored light suddenly burst into view of everyone there. At first, this light was so faint that practically no one felt it at first. But as time went on, the light began to grow even stronger, and soon enough, not a single person could disregard this light. Strange, why has the sky turned into this? Everyone look. The sky has suddenly turned into a spectrum of color. Straight away, many of the people in attendance began to let out curious cries of confusion. Dear heavens, everyone look up at the skies. Suddenly, someone let out a startled cry. Unable to stop themselves, everyone tilted their heads to look up at the sky, only to see the multicolored clouds beginning to gather. Well, what's going on? What in the world is happening? Why are there these rainbow clouds in the sky? They're rainbow-colored. These are the so-called rainbow clouds. Legends have it that when they appear, an auspicious event is about to happen. The previously quiet Changyang Manor was immediately brought into an uproar. Many of the guards stationed in the manor, and the doyens there all stared up at the rainbow clouds in curiosity. When Bai Hai saw the rainbow clouds in the skies, his face could hardly contain his excitement. He's done it. He's broken through. From behind Changyang Ba, the white-robed Chang Wuji was awestruck from the sight of the rainbow. His eyes looked wondrous for a moment, but when a sudden thought hit him, he let out a shocked but happy cry. I remember now. When rainbow clouds appear in the sky, that means a saint ruler is born. It's the fourth master. He's finally managed to become a saint ruler. Ah, is that true? That's great then. Everyone had immediately started to smile with excitement at that information. The time they were waiting for had finally come at last. As the rainbow clouds in the sky grew thicker and thicker, the colors became more and more pronounced. The clouds were now surrounding the skies for tens of thousands of kilometers, so that the entire world looked as if it was under a strange aurora like in a dream. This miraculous sight had captivated the eyes of everyone within radius. Each one of them looked up towards the sky in shock, but none of them could understand just what in the world was going on. Chapter 676. Rainbow clouds. With the rainbow clouds covering the skies, the intense sun that was shining above was completely obscured from the ground below. The skies above the Jesson Kingdom was completely blocked from the sun, but the resplendent light from the rainbow clouds was filled with a holy luster, almost a holy symbol of things to come. As it filled the world, the entire area was no longer the same color as what it were if the sun were to shine on it. Instead, it was filled with the bright multicolored light that made the world seem as if it belonged to a fantasy world. Down on the ground, the citizens of the kingdom were stunned. In no time at all, everyone began to talk to one another about the clouds above with great intensity. Everyone simply didn't understand what in the world was going on, and soon enough, the entire kingdom was abuzz with discussion about the rainbow clouds. One said that the rainbow clouds were an auspicious sign, and a sign that peace and fortune would be coming in the future. Another said that the rainbow clouds were a message to the entire world that an absolutely precious treasure was about to appear. Some said that the rainbow clouds were a sign that another powerful existence was born onto the world. One person had even said that this was a warning sign that the entire continent would be washed into a storm of terror and carnage. But whatever the rainbow clouds were a sign of, everyone could at least agree without a doubt that something huge was about to happen, and everyone that saw it would be affected by it. News like that would surely spread out from the kingdom with lightning-quick speed. From Mt. Hushan in the Jesson Kingdom, The three heaven saint masters of the Huayan sect all stared out at the rainbow clouds with stern faces and silent mouths. Grand Elders, what in the world is going on? Why has these clouds suddenly appeared over our heads? What does this mean? The recently broken through heaven saint master Saya asked in confusion. He was extremely confused about why these rainbow clouds were suddenly appearing. The two Grand Elders Saya spoke to stared at the rainbow clouds for an even longer time without a response. Soon enough, the two of them sighed with a look of undisguised jealousy and admiration on their faces. Someone has broken through. And it's someone close by too. It seems that the Tianyuan continent has yet another saint ruler on it now. One of the Grand Elders sighed. Saya grew awestruck. A saint ruler was an existence that Saya himself had no hopes of ever becoming. He could understand that, as it were, he had no means of reaching such a realm, since he was already late in his years when he became a saint ruler. Becoming a saint ruler was infinitely harder than becoming a heaven saint master, making the task impossible for him. The other Grand Elder continued to stare off into the distance, from where the rainbow clouds were spreading from. Perplexed, he spoke. The rainbow clouds aren't too far away from us. This saint ruler has to be within the kingdom then. I agree. From the looks of the clouds, we should be within 10,000 kilometers of it. That's a very close distance. According to our knowledge, there aren't any sixth cycle heaven saint masters here. So who is this individual? I've heard that the freak from the Changyang clan has become a saint ruler already. While I couldn't verify the truth of this matter, the rumors are very fierce. Even if that freak hasn't become a saint ruler, he can't possibly be too far away from it. If he was just half a leg into the saint ruler realm before, do you think the one who became a saint ruler now is him? It's a little far-fetched, but his talent isn't of the ordinary ilk. Furthermore, the heart of the rainbow clouds are right above the Changyang manor. What? Grand Elder, are you saying the one who became a saint ruler was Changyang Xiangtian? Saya's face froze up in shock as he stared at the Grand Elder. Subconsciously, his left hand clutched at the empty robes to his right hand. The loss of his right arm was an unforgettable memory to Saya. When he lost it to Jian Chen those years ago, he had been oppressed by Jian Chen, and thus became half a cripple. It was a pain that he could never wash away and never forget about. The two Grand Elders continued to look up at the skies for a while. I cannot be certain if it truly is that freak from the Changyang manor. Saya, go to the base of the mountains and dispatch some disciples to Lore City with haste. By your wish. Saya responded affirmatively before flying to the base of the mountains, as fast as he could, to send someone to the Changyan manor. In the area of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom the flame mercenaries occupied, newbies, Jiedatai and Huang Tianba stood side by side on the top of the Imperial Palace to look off into the faraway horizon. They were far away from the Jessen Kingdom, so the rainbow clouds couldn't be seen here along with its multicolored light. But with their strengths, they could sense the happenings of the faraway places. Someone has made the breakthrough. Who could it be? Jiedatai asked questioningly. The birth of a saint ruler was no small matter, as it would affect even these three. That direction is the direction of Jian Chen's family. It would be a good fit to say that Jian Chen was the one to make the breakthrough. Newbies conjectured. Are you saying brother Jian Chen has become a saint ruler? Huang Tianba was astounded. Both Jiedatai and Huang Tianba stared incredulously at newbies. His words were a little too much for either of the two to accept. But then Huang Tianba looked relieved. Laughing, he spoke. That would make sense then. It's a little hard to believe, but brother Jian Chen's talent is practically unprecedented. No one in the past has ever had a talent like his. He had already the strength of a saint ruler, so breaking through is only the next reasonable step. The rainbow clouds persisted to stay in the skies for 6 hours, before finally receding away from the world. By now, the sun was already falling down beneath the horizon to show only half of its face. As such, the world was now a natural crimson hue, rather than the multicolored one from before. In the Changyang manor, Changyang Ba and the other elderly figures could still be seen standing from where they were hours before. The only difference was in their expression. Before they were worried, but now, they were filled with excitement since they knew that the fourth master of the Changyang clan had finally beaten the obstacle and made the breakthrough to become a saint ruler. To truly have a saint ruler in their clan was an achievement that everyone felt extremely prideful of. Everyone knew that as long as there was a saint ruler presiding over them, the future implications would be tremendous. Kriawak. Suddenly, the previously closed doors began to open. In the next second, the white robes of Jian Chun made it into view of everyone. There was a nice smile on Jian Chun's face. His expression was calm and serene, nothing too different from before. But if one were to look at him with not their eyes, but their hearts, they could see that the aura that Jian Chun carried with him was drastically different than before. In the past, his aura was sharp and open, making him feel like an unsheathed blade ready to strike. But now, that sharpness was hidden away from them to become rather calm. It was almost as if he had regressed into becoming an ordinary person. If a person of an even higher realm were to look at him, they would feel as if they were looking at an illusion. An illusion where Jian Chun had become one with the world almost inseparably. From a rise of his hand or the fall of his foot, the mysteries of the world would follow with it. Chapter 677. Celebrating with the kingdom. In the moment Jian Chun stepped out from his room, his entire body seemed as if it was radiating some sort of invisible light that shined across the entire world. In front of him, the entire world looked as if it had lost its color. In Jian Chun's eyes, the world around him was completely different than before. This was all in thanks to his ability to discern the mysteries of the world. He could sense that his own body was one with space. As long as he wished for it, he could use the spatial force to instantly travel to another place. In fact, he could even use the space around him to a certain degree, as if it were his own domain. In the world, there was a faint but exceedingly strong energy that floated about. It was intangible and practically invisible to the human eye, but he could sense its existence. This was world force, a force even stronger than saint force. When the entire group outside of Jian Chun's room saw him, they all grew quiet, so that not a single person said a word. They only stared at Jian Chun, as if he were some sort of valuable treasure to behold. In this passing moment, they were no longer looking at the fourth master of the Changyang clan. They were looking at one of the rarest individuals of the Tianyuan continent. They were looking at a saint ruler. Ha, excellent. You are more than worthy of being a descendant of my family. Grandson, your talent is exceedingly shocking. The fact that I've a descendant like you makes me feel completely at ease. A loud roar of laughter boomed from behind to break the silence of the area. Following the laughter, Bai Hai came striding into the area with a look of pride and joy. The group of elders had turned their heads to look at Bai Hai when he entered, but still not a single one spoke. Instead, they moved to the side so as to give him a direct passageway to Jian Chun. There was joy on Jian Chun's face too. The fact that he'd be able to break through from being a heaven saint master to becoming a saint ruler was completely unexpected to him too. When he first found the scroll from Situching's space ring, he had only intended on giving it a look-see to see just what in the world this shortcut was. Never did he think that this shortcut to understanding the mysteries of the world would allow him to suddenly gain enlightenment and breakthrough. It had awakened the fragments of the mysteries of the world in him and brought him to an elevated realm of thought. In the end, the 3 pieces of beast fur had given him another boost, so that he could fully detach himself from the heaven saint master realm to become a saint ruler. Xiang'er, you've become a genuine saint ruler? Bai Yuntian's voice quavered with excitement as she asked him. Though she knew the answer, she desperately wished to hear the answer from her own son's lips. Jian Chen's eyes landed upon the figure of his mother. Smiling, he replied, "Mother, your son has not failed you. I've managed to break through. Ha ha ha. Well done. Well done indeed. The son of I Changyang Ba has become a saint ruler. What an outstanding son I have. Time has not made me weak, it seems." Changyang Ba boomed with a prideful laughter. His voice was joyful and filled the entire manor with his echoes, so that even plenty of people outside of the manor could hear the absolute joy in his voice. The king of the Jessen kingdom himself was excited. To have a saint ruler in his kingdom was an extremely fortuitous event. But the most important thing was the fact that this saint ruler was engaged to his daughter. Having a saint ruler as his son-in-law was something that he never would have dreamed of having. Even one of the 8 great powers would be envious to have such a chance. AI, my dear nephew truly is far too terrifying. He is a genius to become a saint ruler. Am I perhaps dreaming of this? Bai Dao muttered from the side of the king. When he last saw Jianchen years ago, he had only just materialized his saint weapon, before being chased out by the Huayan sect as a saint. It had been a relatively short time since then. But now this little saint had suddenly leapt upwards to become a saint ruler. This was what Bai Dao felt completely stunned about. News of the 4th master of the Changyang clan becoming a saint ruler quickly spread throughout the kingdom. Like a squall, this information passed by the ears and mouth of the citizens of the kingdom, leaving everyone speechless. Magical beasts capable of carrying information faster than humans flooded the skies in droves, so as to send this information out of the kingdom as fast as they could. Soon enough, everyone in the Jesson kingdom and beyond were stunned by the news. Not too long afterwards, the king of the Jesson kingdom let out another proclamation proclaiming that today would be a national event to celebrate and be recorded in history to commemorate Jianchen's ascension. The fact that the rainbow clouds meant that Jianchen became a saint ruler spread rapidly throughout the area. The surrounding kingdoms near the Jesson kingdom heard of it, and each and every king that heard it was shocked as a result. One by one, they began to send out an envoy with a plentiful amount of gifts. These envoys were heaven saint masters, and could therefore reach the Jesson kingdom even faster. Even the greater sects and clans within the surrounding area sent their most valuable representative, with plenty of gifts to give. On this brisk day, everybody that was a somebody within the Jesson kingdom was gathered in Changyang Manor. Even the 2 grand elders of the Huayan sect had arrived with gifts to celebrate this momentous occasion in Lore City. Today, the Changyang Manor was completely cleaned and decorated with Chang Wuji personally receiving the guests. The most anticipated person of the day, Jianchen, was not yet there to make an appearance in front of everyone. Then when the entire manor was at its liveliest with guests, Jianchen, Bai Yintian, Changyang Ba, and the king of the Jesson kingdom gathered together. My dear relatives, my Yuer and son-in-law aren't by any means young anymore, and the engagement between them has gone on for some time already. In my opinion, we should find a good day to conduct the marriage ceremony. The king smiled as he spoke. Now that Jianchen was a saint ruler, the king himself wanted nothing more but to have Jianchen hold a great wedding with his daughter. Changyang Ba and Bai Yintian nodded as well with a smile since they too shared similar thoughts. Although they knew that their son was extremely superior, the 2 of them were very fond of Princess Yu. If it were her to be married to their aunt, the 2 parents found no objections to it. Xiang'er, you and Yuer are adults now. Don't you think it's time? Bai Yintian prodded the question. She was extremely hopeful that Jianchen would agree, since she was very fond of the idea of having Yu and Jianchen married. Xiang'er, you're already a saint ruler, and the flame mercenaries you're leading is already the dominant force in the area. Now that the ground beneath your feet is settled, you and Yuer should get married. Don't you think it's time to tie the knot? Changyang Ba smiled kindly. Inwardly, Jianchen let out a small grumble. With a slight sigh he spoke. Father, Mother, and Your Majesty, with my eldest brother not yet having his limbs healed, and the whereabouts of my second sister unknown, now would not be a good time to conduct the marriage ceremony. Jianchen knew that this marriage was already something he couldn't change, but he didn't wish to settle down just yet. He wanted to prolong it for some time still. When the king heard Jianchen's answer, he let out a helpless sigh. He knew that from this response, the marriage between his daughter and Jianchen would be stalled indefinitely. Jianchen's response made sense. His eldest brother was without his limbs, and his second sister was completely lost to them. Without the entire family being there, a marriage would be unwise to have. And so talks of marriage had been stopped there. Jianchen continued to talk with the king of the Jesson kingdom and his parents for some time before Jianchen returned to his own room and closed himself off for the time being. Now that he was alone in his room, Jianchen sat on top of his bed and took out the blank scrolls and the 3 pieces of beast fur to study. Ever since he became a saint ruler, The mysteries of the world were no longer a mystery now that he could use the power as he wished. With this elevation in power, the mystery that was hidden within the scroll could now be faintly sensed. It's no wonder this scroll could evolve the mysteries of the world. The mysteries of the world that were branded in here was done by a divinely being almost. I can sense that the power in here is extremely faint though. Could it be that after it's used once, the seal that keeps the mysterious power in here loses its effect until all of it is gone? Then using this scroll, once would turn it back into a regular scroll. But these 3 beast furs still remain a mystery, Jianshan muttered. He understood the nature of the scrolls now. But the 3 beast furs were still a complete enigma to him. Despite him being a saint ruler, the 3 beast furs still felt the same as any other magical beast fur. Even the fact that the mysteries of the world was hidden within the beast furs would go unnoticed if he didn't know about it beforehand. These 3 beast furs are complicated in nature. There's a definite secret hidden in here. But what exactly is that secret? Even as a saint ruler, I cannot tell. Jianshan asked himself with great curiosity. Chapter 678. The Qinhuang Kingdom in shock today. Changyang took the initiative to seek out Jianshan and apologize to him. It was in his hope that he could erase the unpleasantness that once happened between them before. But Jianshan felt rather relieved to hear this apology nonetheless. Afterwards, Jianshan spent the next 3 days in Changyang Manor. The only times he had stepped out from the manor was when he went to visit Kendall's wife and son Sans. The plight Sans was in had motivated Jianshan's desire to become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master as soon as possible. This was because he came to learn of a way to help Sans cultivate again after his saint weapon was destroyed. All he had to do was to become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, since only they could help a cripple regain the ability to cultivate. Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters held an extraordinary powerful ability in their ability to heal. It was said that they could revive even the dead, and as long as the Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was strong enough. Therefore, treating a person who had their saint weapon destroyed was therefore no problem at all. After the 3rd day, a large group of people could be seen standing around in the main courtyards of Changyang Manor. Even the king was there. One by one, they surrounded Jianshan with eyes of reluctance. Today was the day that Jianshan would be leaving, but everyone was unwilling to bid farewell to him just yet. Xiang'er, you've worked so hard recently. When you finish all that you need to do, you must come back home and stay even longer next time. Bai Yuntian urged her son with a great deal of reluctance. Xiang'er, you could let your subordinates deal with the smaller matters. There's no need to work so hard yourself. Changyangba spoke. Xiangtian, the elders of the Changyang clan, and the king of the Jessen kingdom, began to give their own well-meaning opinions and advice to him. As it were, it seemed as if they were extremely concerned for Jianshan as well. While Jianshan was a saint ruler, he did not grow arrogant because of it. He still treated his seniors with respect and listened dutifully to their words with a nod of his head whenever they said something. It was at this moment Yu Fengyan came forward to grab at Jianshan's hands. Pleading with him, she spoke. Xiang'er, there hasn't been any news or correspondence with your second sister up to now. We know nothing about her whereabouts. With your strength, Xiang'er, your second aunt hopes that you'll be able to spend some time looking for her. She's the only daughter your second aunt has. Jianshan's face grew grim. Looking to his second aunt, he promised, Second aunt, you can rest assured. I'll do my best to find the whereabouts of second sister. Jianshan felt very worried when it came to the disappearance of his second sister. When he was young, the only other person that cared for him besides his mother was Changyang Mingyue. Her concern for him had even exceeded his own father. Xiang'er, I can feel at ease now. I can only hope that my silly Mingyue will come back home safe and sound by my side. Yu Fengyan spoke. Her complexion was rather unwell, due to the pain she felt in her heart. She was already prepared for the worst to happen. The only thing she needed now was the evidence. After bidding farewell to the people in the Changyang Manor, he left together with his grandfather Bai Hai. After all, he had only returned this time to confirm his grandfather's identity. There were still many things that needed to be dealt with for the flame mercenaries, so Jianchen really could not stay for too long. Jianchen originally wanted Bai Hai to stay in the Changyang manor. However, Bai Hai had already gotten used to spending his time peacefully in the past few years, so he really was not used to the noisy environment of Changyang manor. This was why he went with Jianchen to the flame mercenaries. Also, there were a few other saint rulers there, so if he ever became bored, at least he still had some people to talk to. Jianchen and Bai Hai traveled together, using spatial force to soar through the high sky. They traveled quickly towards where the flame mercenaries were. In the royal palace of the Qinhuang kingdom, the king currently sat casually on the throne. Before him stood a young man clad in silver armor. Wujian, didn't you stay in Jessen kingdom? Why did you come back? Looking at how exhausted you are, it should be travel fatigue. Perhaps something major happened in Jessen kingdom? The king of Qinhuang kingdom said amiably, and with a smile. Your Majesty, Wujian really does have something extremely important to report to this time. A few days ago, Imperial Protector Jianshen has already successfully broken through to Saint Ruler from a Heaven Saint Master. On the tired face of the young man, there was a slight smile. It was obvious that he was filled with joy. What? Jianshen has already successfully become a Saint Ruler. The king suddenly stood up and stared at the young man in disbelief. Yes, Your Majesty, Imperial Protector has really become a Saint Ruler. He was also accompanied by rainbow clouds which blot out the sky within a 50,000-kilometer radius. He's caused a great shock wave in that area. Speaking up to there, the young man paused slightly before continuing. In addition, the Imperial Protector's grandfather has suddenly appeared, who is also a powerful Saint Ruler. The king did not really care about the sudden appearance of Jianshen's grandfather. At this moment, he was deeply shocked by the news of Jianshen becoming a Saint Ruler. How is this possible? Jianshen has actually already become a Saint Ruler. Unbelievable. Just look at how old he is right now. The king mumbled with a distracted expression. Although he seemed calm, great waves currently rippled through his heart. Before, the news that Jianshen was already a Heaven Saint Master before the age of 50 had already caused him enough shock. Now only after a few years, he had already improved from a Heaven Saint Master to a Saint Ruler. With such an improvement speed, it really would cause people to be terrified. I'll immediately go report it to the 4 honorable Imperial Protectors. The king did not dare to delay this in the slightest and immediately left, hurrying towards the Qin Heaven Palace. Not long after the king had left, another burly middle-aged man in golden armor walked in from outside. So it's the head of the Royal Palace Guards, Audro. Perhaps there is something that needs to be reported to the king for you to come here? Seeing the middle-aged man, Qin Wujian revealed a smile of familiarity. Qin Wujian, so it's you. Didn't you go to the Jizum Kingdom with the Imperial Protector? Perhaps you 3 have all come back from there? Audro and Qin Wujian clearly had a good relationship. He spoke with some surprise. Qin Wujian shook his head and said, That's not true. I returned this time because I have some important news to report to His Majesty. I won't be staying too long in the Imperial Palace. What about you, Audro? Perhaps you have important news to report? If I recall correctly, the position as the head of the Imperial Palace Guards is a very simple and easy job, since it's already been several centuries since something last happened in the palace. Audro's expression slowly grew more solemn and said, Correct. For the past centuries in the Imperial Palace, it indeed has been safe. But it's different now. Recently, I have constantly received reports from my subordinates that there are actually people who go missing for no reason in our Imperial Palace, such as palace maids, eunuchs, and even several dozen guards who work under me, including a captain with the strength of a Earth Saint Master. They disappeared as if they were water evaporating away. With my strength, no matter how I investigate, I can't find their whereabouts. Don't you think this is weird? What, there's actually been something this weird happening? Qin Wujian muttered to himself with his eyebrows slightly raised out of shock. Afterwards, he said, It's not hard to explain why things like this have been occurring. That is if they occurred in smaller kingdoms. But for it to actually occur in the heavily guarded imperial palace of our Qinhuang kingdom, it's rather astounding. After all, There are the 4 imperial protectors overseeing the imperial palace. Even the slightest movements would not escape from the 4 of them. Yeah, I also feel it's weird. I've looked into this matter for several days already, but I haven't found anything. This is why I can only report it to His Majesty. Unfortunately, you came a little late. His Majesty has just proceeded towards the Qin Heaven Palace. Audro, you'll have to wait a little. In the Grand Qin Heaven Palace of the Royal Palace, the 4 most respected imperial protectors gathered together. They sat around a large square table, and not far away, the king stood obediently. He did not carry the imposing awe he normally possessed, and maintained a respectful expression. Are you serious? Has Jianchen really broken through to a saint ruler? An imperial protector opened his mouth to ask. His expression was solemn, and he clearly cared about this very much. The king replied respectfully, replying to imperial protector, "This is the news brought back by Qin Wujian, who has been stationed to Jessan Kingdom. He is completely certain that Jianchen is already a saint ruler." Also at that time, rainbow clouds had even appeared, blotting the skies of a 50,000-kilometer radius. Since the rainbow clouds have appeared, a saint ruler has definitely been born. Looks like Jianchen really has become a saint ruler. An imperial protector said. But just how old is he right now? Just a few years ago, he participated in the gathering of the mercenaries in Mercenary City. So just how did he become a saint ruler so quickly? This is just insane. He's not even 50, actually climbing to the realm of saint rulers with such a young age. This indeed is unbelievable. Now that Jianchen has already become a saint ruler, do you think we should tell him this? With his support, our Qinhuang kingdom should increase quite a lot in strength. Last time Jianchen returned, there also seemed to be another powerful saint ruler, and a class 7 magical beast who followed him. This is a strength that we must value. In my opinion, we indeed should tell this to Jianchen. Perhaps we will gain 3 extra saint rulers today because of this. Chapter 679, Wiping Out the Hongfu Clan 1. Yes. If we have 3 saint rulers join us, our power will increase a lot. We just don't know what relationship Jianchen exactly has with the 2, and whether he can pull them towards our Qinhuang kingdom. Perhaps they are unwilling to interfere in this matter. Listening to the conversation between the 4 imperial protectors, the king hesitated slightly. He then spoke carefully. For imperial protectors, I have heard that Jianchen has connections with the higher levels of authority in Mercenary City. Perhaps we should speak with Jianchen and see if we can borrow his connection with them to get Mercenary City to help us. As soon as they stand to our side, I believe the problem that we are about to face will cease to exist, and those above us will also view us with a new light. The 4 imperial protectors shook their heads simultaneously and turned down the king's suggestion without any second thought. One of the imperial protectors said, "I don't really understand Mercenary City. The connection that Jianchen has with the authority of Mercenary City is just a rumor, and does not seem to be true. Also, even if Jianchen really does have a connection with them, Mercenary City will definitely not help us. Yes, in the eyes of normal mercenaries, perhaps it is just a city, just a place where mercenaries gather. However, in reality, Mercenary City plays a role of guarding the Tianyuan continent that not many people know of. They definitely won't intervene in any battles on the Tianyuan continent, much less help anyone rise in power. They will only formally intervene if a large-scale battle erupts on the continent. So our idea of requesting help from them definitely won't work. It's all the same, whether Jianchen has any connections at all with Mercenary City." An imperial protector said. Junior understands and thanks the imperial protector's teachings. The king said with great respect, and his hand clasped. Enough. Our conversation about Jianchen will stop here for now. After you go back, immediately order people to send a message to Jianchen and ask him to come visit the Qinhuang Empire sometime. We can talk about this with him at that time. An imperial protector said. Yes. As soon as Junior goes back, Junior will order people to contact Imperial Protector Jianchen. Junior will first excuse himself. The king slowly withdrew. Sigh. Who would have thought that Jianshan has already become a saint ruler? If he continues with his unbelievable speed, perhaps he'll only need a few centuries to reaching an even higher realm at most, becoming a saint king. After the king had left, an imperial protector could not help but give off a sigh of surprise again. His talent really is unprecedented. Jianshan's future accomplishments will be so great that even we will not be able to imagine it. Perhaps he will directly catch up to the unrivaled Mo Tianyan. I even suspect Jianshan might be a reincarnation of Mo Tianyan. If he matures successfully, he will definitely become a venerated saint emperor. It's already been such a long time since the Tianyuan continent has produced a saint emperor. It's about time for one to appear. If Jianshan becomes a saint emperor, our Qinhuang kingdom will also be benefited greatly. We can directly become an existence equal to the three great empires, or even surpass the three great empires. We four need to properly foster our relationship with Jianshan. If we don't start now, perhaps it will be too late. In the imperial city of Qinhuang Kingdom, in less than 10 kilometers away from the imperial palace, a burly middle-aged man currently laid on a bed with his chest bare and eyes tightly closed. Suddenly, the middle-aged man snapped open his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, 2 rays of visible light shot out from his eyes. They pierced 2 finger-sized holes in the wooden ceiling. The middle-aged man sat up without any prior warning, and could not help but reveal a smile on his fierce-looking face. However, the smile was sinister. Jianshan, I finally know where you've gone. So it turns out you've been hiding in a place called Jessen Kingdom, which was why it's been so difficult to find news about you. The middle-aged man slowly blurred, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the tightly shut room. Somewhere else in the imperial city, the bare-chested, middle-aged man walked into a rather large store. He threw a bag full of glittering purple coins onto the counter, and said expressionlessly, "Immediately give me the most detailed map of Tianyuan continent. Remember, I want the largest, the most detailed map." Seeing so many purple coins, the shopkeeper's eyes became green with greed. He hurriedly collected the bag full of purple coins and said, Okay. Customer, please wait. I will go and get the best map for you right now." Before he had even finished speaking, the shopkeeper turned to leave. Very quickly, he returned with a scroll as long as a man, and said with an enchanting smile, "Customer, this is our store's largest, clearest, and most detailed map. It records the geography of half of the Tianyuan continent." The man opened the long scroll as soon as he received it. The scroll was very large, and when completely unraveled, it was 5 meters long. On it were mountains and rivers, all very detailed. The man scanned across the map swiftly and forcefully with his gaze. After a while, he revealed a cold smile, before collecting the map and leaving. After several hours of travel, Jianshan and Bai Hai finally returned to the Flame Mercenaries. Just when they approached the royal palace, Jubi's Jeditai, Huang Tianba and the other 3 sensed them, and were already floating high up in the air to welcome them. Ha, Jianshan, so the activity a few days ago was indeed caused by you. Who would have thought that after a few days of not seeing each other, you've already become a saint ruler? Back then when you were still a heaven saint master, it was already very hard for me to suppress you. Now that you've broken through, perhaps even I, the great newbies, cannot be your opponent. Newbies found out that Jianshan had already become a saint ruler with a glance, and immediately became happy for Jianshan. Jeditai, who stood beside newbies, looked at Jianshan with a complicated expression. He was very shocked. Although he had already predicted that Jianshan had already become a saint ruler, he still felt great shock when he really thought about it. He was someone who knew very well that only a few years ago, Jianshan was still a weak earth saint master. Only so much time had passed from then, and Jianshan had actually overcome the difficulties along the way from an earth saint master, breaking through to a saint ruler with devastating speed. It was just too unbelievable. Ha. Who would have thought that little brother Jianshan has indeed become a saint ruler? Congratulations! I believe not too long in the future, little brother Jianshan will become a saint emperor, that even I can only dream of. Huang Tianba laughed aloud. He was extremely happy. Chapter 680. Wiping out the Hongfu clan. 2. Jianchen said a few words to Huang Tianba, newbies and Jeditai before introducing Bai Hai to everyone. He did not try to cover up the fact that Bai Hai was his grandfather to the three. Huang Tianba and the other two already knew that Jianchen had a connection to Bai Hai a few days ago. So when they heard the truth, they were not too surprised. They only constantly sighed, sighing how there just was nothing too strange in such a large world. Who would have thought that a few days ago, the two who were still enemies actually had such a close relationship? Ha ha ha, it'll be great now. In the future, everyone will be one of our own. Now that Brother Jianchen's group is becoming more and more powerful, normal hermit clans will no longer pose a threat to the flame mercenaries. Huang Tianba laughed aloud and seemed extremely happy. Hearing that, Jianchen also revealed a smile on his face. With the current strength of the flame mercenaries, he clearly was also very happy. Let's talk after we go down, Jianchen called out to the group, before landing on the ground at the same time. In a magnificently decorated room, Jianchen, Bai Hai newbies Jeditai, Huang Tianba Mingdong, Huang Luan and others currently gathered there in a big group. The news of Jianchen becoming a saint ruler had also been announced by Huang Tianba, so all of Jianchen's friends knew about it. Brother, have you really become a saint ruler? Mingdong was the first one who could not hold it back, so he asked. He was moved. Jianchen did not deny it, and confirmed with a smile and a nod. After receiving confirmation, the crowd was first stunned, before falling into a great uproar. Whoa, fantastic! Brother, you are now a powerful hermit. You are just too awesome. Bai Lian's ecstatic face was flushed red. Beside her, the two girls, Huang Luan and Yu were also excited, and looked at Jianchen gently. This is just too unbelievable. It has only been so long since the previous gathering of mercenaries has finished, yet the current king of mercenaries is already a powerful saint ruler. It's unimaginable. Wang Yufeng carried a young steel-winged bird in his bosom. He could not help but sigh with surprise. Jianchen, my gap with you is getting bigger and bigger. It looks like it'll be very difficult for me to catch up with you in this lifetime. Tai Ta looked at Jianchen with a complicated expression, and said with a pained smile. Thinking back when they were still in Kargath Academy, although his strength was not as great as Jianchen, it was almost the same. However, only after a few years, Jianchen had already become a saint ruler, reaching a great level where he had no hope of catching up. This also caused the simple and honest Tai Ta to be filled with disbelief. Jianchen brought his hands together and said, "Enough. Everyone please quiet for a moment. I have something very important to announce. The person next to me is my grandfather, who is also a powerful saint ruler." These people were all Jianchen's most trusted people. So to them, Jianchen did not conceal the identity of Bai Hai. Instead, he made it known to everyone that there was an additional saint ruler on their side, which could instead increase morale. Hearing this, the people who did not have a great understanding of Jianchen's background actually did not react too greatly, and only felt excited because of an additional saint ruler. However, Yu knew Jianchen's background and was instead filled with doubt. Excluding Jianchen, she was the only person in the crowd that had a relative understanding to the people in the Changyang manor. She felt astonished by the fact that a saint ruler grandfather had suddenly appeared by Jianchen's side. Suddenly, Yu seemed to remember something. Her expression was full of surprise, and looked at Bai Hai with shock. She asked, "Perhaps this senior is the lost ancestor of the Changyang clan?" Jianchen shook his head. Staring at Yu, he said, "Yuer, I'll explain this to you later. Lianer, come with me. Brother and grandfather have some things that we want to say to you in private." "Yes." Bai Lian nodded her head obediently. At first, she glanced suspiciously at Bai Hai, who was in long blue robes. Afterwards, under everyone's curious gaze, she followed behind Jianchen into another room. Under Jianchen's indication, Bai Hai also went with him. After the three entered the room, Jianchen swung his hand, and a breeze closed the door. Afterwards, he turned around to look at Bai Hai and said, "Grandfather, this is my younger sister Bai Lian. She is also a person of the Bai clan, with the blood of our Bai clan running in her veins. Currently, She is one of the few remaining members. After saying that, he turned around to speak to Bai Lian. Lianer, this is the patriarch of our Bai clan. Why don't you quickly call him grandfather? Grandfather, Bai Lian called out obediently. Meanwhile, her clear gaze, which was full of complicated emotions, examined Bai Hai. As for this grandfather, she had heard about the situation in detail from Bai Yuntian long ago, and already knew that he had been missing for several years. She just never thought it would actually be his older brother who would find him again. Bai Hai had a kind smile on his face, and Bai Lian's gaze became soft. He had once spent 30-odd years in a dark cave, passing the days all by himself. As a result, he now showed great concern and care for all his grandsons and granddaughters. Good. Who would have thought that I, Bai Hai, would have another great-granddaughter, who also happens to possess a great talent for cultivation that is even rarely seen in 1,000 years. Not bad at all. Looks like the heavens is helping my Bai clan to flourish. Without much time, my Bai clan can regain its former glory. Bai Hai smiled without restraint. He was extremely excited. Great-granddaughter, your brother has already become a saint ruler, so he doesn't need your grandfather's guidance anymore at all. As for you, you should follow your grandfather in the future. Your grandfather will personally guide you through your cultivation, and you will be able to avoid many long winding bends in the path of cultivation, which will save you from wasting your great talent. Bai Hai said to Bai Lian gently. However, what surprised Bai Hai was that Bai Lian actually denied his good intentions and said, Grandfather, Lianer wants to stay here to help brother do some things, to help brother bear the burden of the pressure. Lianer does not want to leave. Lianer, you don't need to worry about the matters of the flame mercenaries too much. You mustn't let these miscellaneous things interfere with your cultivation. Only cultivation is the most important, because on the Tian Yuan continent, only strength can represent everything. You should give the responsibilities to other people. You don't need to toil about yourself. Jianchen persuaded. Bai Lian resolutely shook her head and looked at Jianchen imploringly. She said, Brother Lianer extremely likes to do these things. You should just let Lianer do it. Please don't turn away Lianer. Lianer and sister you will manage the flame mercenaries very well together. Also Lianer will ensure you that it definitely will not interfere with cultivation. Seeing Bai Lian's pleadings, Jianchen temporarily did not know just what to choose. He just loved his sister too much, and really did not want to force her to do something she was unwilling to do. He could only secretly sigh. Whatever, since great-granddaughter is so determined, grandfather will not force you. In the future, grandfather will just stay here, and will guide great-granddaughter when she has the time. Bai Hai did not force Bai Lian in the end. The situation was now different from before. Before, he had several grandchildren under him, and did not need to purposely care for anybody. However now, he currently only had 4 grandchildren, so he needed to increase his care, completely changing his unconcerned nature from before. After the 3 had finished speaking, they left the room. Afterwards, he chatted a little with the people outside. As he conversed with them, Huang Tianba walked to Jianchen and said, Brother Jianchen, I have some things that I wish you can help me with. Jianchen chuckled and said, Senior Huang does not need to be polite. If Senior has anything that requires Jianchen, feel free to mention it. Jianchen will definitely provide assistance. Huang Tianba's smile had already completely disappeared. He looked at Jianchen solemnly and said, I wonder if Brother Jianchen still remembers about the Hongfu clan I mentioned before. Jianchen felt a tug of interest, and could vaguely guess what Huang Tianba was suggesting. He said, Of course. The Hongfu clan is the nemesis clan of the Huang family, with the enmity reaching a level that can no longer be resolved. If Jianchen guesses correctly, Senior Huang should be wanting to move against the Hongfu clan. Huang Tianba did not deny it and said, Correct. Our Huang family and the Hongfu clan have always caused trouble to one another, and have always wanted to end each other. However, the strength of our 2 groups have always been extremely close, with neither of us able to suppress the other. Even if we fought it out, the outcome would be both sides suffering defeats, with us ourselves suffering the most losses in the end. As a result, The hatred between the two groups has always continued up to now, unable to be resolved. However, this time, I wish that Brother Jianchen can work with me and obliterate the Hongfu clan. That would save troubles from undue delays. Just in case any unforeseen changes happen. Jianchen could not help but remember the ruler armament wielded by the saint ruler of the Hongfu clan from before. He could not help but reveal a smile, and he said, Senior Huang's business is also my business. Also, the Hongfu clan played a part in regards to what happened with the tungsten alloy mine. So speaking of which, they are also enemies of me. Senior Huang, you do not need to worry. Jianchen will definitely help you in the Hongfu clan. If it's like that, it'll be fabulous. With Brother Jianchen's help, the Hongfu clan will no longer possess the power to fight against our Huang family. Huang Tianba laughed aloud. Jianchen hesitated slightly, and then said, Senior Huang, it's just that Junior has a bold request. Junior wishes for Senior to permit it. Haha, Brother Jianchen, you don't need to worry at all. Go ahead and say it. Huang Tianba said straightforwardly. I recall that the Hongfu clan has 2 ruler armaments, with one of them being a sword. I am interested in this sword. So Junior wishes that after what we do, Senior Huang can give the ruler armament to me. Jianchen said, no problem at all. As long as the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan fall, I wouldn't want any of the 2 ruler armaments. They can all go to Brother Jianchen. Huang Tianba said extremely generously. Although ruler armaments were very valuable, having many was not necessarily good. This was because for every ruler armament, an additional amount of power was needed to guard it. One was already enough for the Huang family. Chapter 681. Wiping out the Hongfu clan 3. Senior, I'll entirely listen to you as to how we handle the Hongfu clan. I just wonder when we will move against the Hongfu clan. Jianchen said. Huang Tianba paused for a little while before saying, every day the Hongfu clan exists is another day where my Huang family will not be at ease. Brother Jianchen, in my opinion, it's better if we handle it sooner. I just worry that if we drag it out for too long, unexpected changes might happen. Since it's like that, we should just act now. With our current strength, handling the Hongfu clan is a piece of cake, and it won't take up much time at all. Jianchen said. He seemed to be even more anxious than Huang Tianba. Huang Tianba revealed an overjoyed expression and nodded several times. It's best like that. We should get going. Jianchen turned around and looked at the crowd. He called out, Newbies, Jiedatai, come over here. Jiedatai and newbies glanced at Jianchen suspiciously, and then walked over doubtfully. How many times have I told you, call me the great newbies? Just why don't you listen? Whatever. Who told you to have such abnormal talent? I, the great newbies, am magnanimous, so I won't bicker over these small things with a brat like you. Speak, just what have you called the great newbies over for? Arriving before Jianchen, Newbies curled his lip and said unhappily. After hearing what Newbies had said, Jianchen and Huang Tianba could not help but laugh out involuntarily. Newbies just regarded the word great with too great of an importance. Newbies, weren't you unhappy that you could not enjoy yourself to the fullest with the fight a few days ago? Come with us in a while. There'll soon be another battle to fight. Jianchen said. Newbies was a magical beast. Even though he was in human form, and that he seemed completely just like a human, his love for battle, that flowed in his veins, could not be changed no matter what. The moment he heard there would be another fight, he could not control himself, and immediately became overjoyed. He said excitedly, Your human world is just too marvelous. I once stayed in the Cross Mountains, and would only meet an opponent after hundreds of years. Ever since I followed you into the human world, there's been fights practically every day. Only now have I, the great Newbies, realized how smart of a choice it was to follow you into the world of humans. Speaking up to there, Newbies seemed to have realized something. His expression changed slightly, and said to Jianchen, Jianchen, you youngster, I, the great Newbies, must warn you beforehand that you definitely cannot find those abnormally powerful opponents for me. I can forcefully handle saint rulers of the 6th heavenly layer. If the opponent's strength is in the 7th heavenly layer, or has exceeded that, you can't blame me for ditching you and running off all by myself. Fighting against such strong opponents is just suicide. There's no chance in winning. Even with a ruler armament, it's impossible. Speaking to the end, newbies glanced at Huang Tianba, intentionally or otherwise. Huang Tianba chuckled. Newbies, the great newbies, your worry is completely unnecessary. This time, our opponents will not be too strong. The two will only have strength of the third heavenly layer. It's just that we need to pay attention to the fact that they have two ruler armaments. What? The two both have ruler armaments? Newbies stared blankly slightly, and then unwarily spat out. Are they be the two old men who escaped a few days ago? Correct, it's the two of them, Huang Tianba said. Newbies revealed a soft smile and said, then no problem. With their strength, I can even handle 3 at once. However, they have ruler armaments. The strength of those things cannot be ignored, and cannot be casually hit by one of them. I'll be responsible for keeping one busy. You two can handle the other one. Great. If we want to kill the other one, it'll be extremely easy if brother Jian Chun and I work together. Huang Tianba seemed very happy. The unresolved hatred of the Huang family for the Hongfu clan was finally going to disappear. Not only could the Huang family lead lives of no worry in the future, it would also relieve a great burden from the old man, who held the highest status in the Huang family. Newbies, you come with Senior Huang and me this time. Jeditai, you can stay here to keep watch. Jianchen quickly allocated the positions of his subordinates. He did not get Jeditai to go along, because it was completely unnecessary. Also, against an opponent with a ruler armament, if Jeditai fought, he would just be more of a hindrance than help, unable to use his strength to the fullest. Afterwards, Jian Chan bid farewell to the group of people, and left together with Huang Tianba and newbies. They directly headed towards the Hongfu clan. Several thousand kilometers away from the flame mercenaries, there was a magical beast forest that took up an area of several thousand square kilometers. Even though the magical beast forest was on the Tianyuan continent, it was a medium-sized magical beast forest, not only because there were many magical beasts, but also because there were many Class 5 magical beasts. According to rumors, in the deepest parts of the magical forest, there were even Class 6 magical beasts, akin to human Saint Heaven Masters. There were many countries of different sizes surrounding the forest. Every day, there would be large numbers of mercenaries who would enter the outskirts of the first to kill some low-class magical beasts to support their families. Of course, there were also some Earth Saint Master who brag about their strength and enter the depths of the forest in attempt to hunt a Class 5 magical beast. However, without any exception whatsoever, all the Earth Saint Masters would enter unharmed and leave heavily injured. There was actually no one who had succeeded in killing a Class 5 magical beast. As for powerful Heaven Saint Masters, there were some people who had once worked together in attempt to hunt a Class 6 magical beast. However, they all returned not long after. After that, no one ever entered the deeper parts of the magical beast forest, nor would they ever mention what was inside. This was because in the deepest parts of the magical beast forest concealed a secret mysterious clan. The strength of this mysterious clan had once caused all the Heaven Saint Masters heading into the deepest parts of the magical beast forest to pale, because the clan possessed a strength so great that it could completely and easily wipe out several of the surrounding countries, even though it had so few people. In the deepest parts of the magical beast forest, there was a manor completely built out of white marble. At this moment, 3 people gathered together in a completely sealed, secret room of the manor. In-law, this time, our Hongfu clan has met an unprecedented feeling of danger. You must help our Hongfu clan survive through this threat. After it, I am willing to give the dragon-slaying sword to your Yin family. An elderly man in long, white robes requested while he sat before a middle-aged man. Chapter 682. The Yin family lord. After hearing what the white-robed old man had said, a sliver of interest flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. However, he quickly concealed it and said helplessly, Jin Tian Jin Feng, this time, I can only apologize. Jian Chen actually has the great elder of Mercenary City supporting him from behind, And even the two ancient clans aren't his opponents, let alone my small Yin family. Please forgive me for being incapable of action. The middle-aged man was the Yin family lord, and also the only saint ruler of the Yin family. His strength had already reached the peak of the fourth heavenly layer, and was stronger than either one of the saint rulers from the Hongfu clan. In-law, regarding Jian Chen, you do not need to worry at all. Although I don't know what relationship Jian Chen has with Huang Tianba, but other than offending Jian Chen because of the tungsten alloy mine, we have no other animosity. I believe that just by this, it is not enough for Jian Chen to antagonize my Hongfu clan enmity. As long as the two of us personally visit him and apologize sometime, it should be able to clear off any enmity created a few days ago, transforming our hostility into friendship. What really makes my Hongfu clan worried is Huang Tianba. The hatred between the Huang family and my Hongfu clan was formed by people of the previous generation. Although we two groups have not had any large-scale clashes in the recent years, we still have constant small conflicts in secret. Both sides have suffered losses, so as a result, the hatred between us has become very deep, which cannot be resolved peacefully at all. This time, if in-law helps me wipe out the Huang family, I will gift my dragon-slaying sword to you. The saint ruler of the Hongfu clan Jin Tian said. As soon as he finished speaking, a meter-long sword with a width of 2 fingers appeared in his hand. The entire sword was covered in a layer of hazy, glimmering light, and a blurry image of the sword could be vaguely seen through the layer. The entire sword was veined, and if it was looked at closely, the veins actually hegemonic flying black dragon. The Yin family lord's interest was indeed piqued. He hesitated for a while, but still declined in the end. He said, "Perhaps the matter is not as easy as you have thought. According to my investigations, a girl from the Huang family was originally engaged to the Huanggu clan, but afterwards, it was because of the appearance of Jian Chen that the Huang family personally cancelled it. As a result, I feel that Jian Chen and the Huang family's relationship is more complicated than you have imagined. My Yin family definitely cannot intervene in this. There is the great elder of Mercenary City, supporting Jian Chen from behind, and he seems to also have some connections with the ancient Tianmu clan. Also, considering how terrifying his talent is, he is someone my Yin family cannot afford to offend." In-law, the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan became worried. Just as Jin Feng attempted to persuade him, he was cut off by the Yin family lord. "Jin Tian, Jin Feng, you should stop persuading me anymore. I know very well as to how much my Yin family can do. The relationship between Jian Chen and the Huang family is complicated, and they may even have treated you as a common enemy. My Yin family definitely cannot intervene. Today, I have come personally to visit, because I have something very important to tell the two of you. The engagement between our two families is cancelled. From today onwards, our two families will go their separate way. Matters regarding your Hongfu clan have nothing to do with my Yin family anymore." The Yin family lord said. The expressions of the two Hongfu clan saint rulers simultaneously became extremely ugly. They did not only did they fail to pull the Yin family in to face an enemy, they had instead cut off their relationship with the Yin family. This was extremely unfavorable for the Hongfu clan. "Yin Zhengnan, you came today to cancel the engagement?" Jin Tian's expression was unpleasant. The Yin family lord sighed. He had an expression of helplessness and said quietly, "I wish you can understand, my Yin family still needs to survive. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, why don't the two of you come out quickly? Today, the enmity between my Huang family and your Hongfu clan will reach an utter conclusion." Suddenly, a loud and clear voice pierced through various obstacles to clearly resound in the room. The sound wave was so strong that it had caused the entire secret room to slightly tremble. "It's Huang Tianba, that old bastard's voice. He actually came knocking on our door personally." The expression of the two saint rulers became extremely unpleasant. The Hongfu clan and the Huang family had been locked in a stalemate for countless years, and during that time, neither of them dared to allow any large-scale conflicts to erupt. This was because the strength of the two groups were very similar, and once they began fighting, no one had confidence in absolute victory. However, today, Huang Tianba actually showed up on his own accord. Even without thinking, they knew he definitely brought foreign aid, and was extremely confident. Looks like my visit today really was untimely, the Yin family lord said with some remorse, before immediately leaving the secret room. Outside the Hongfu clan manor, the originally peaceful manor immediately became bustling with noise after Huang Tianba's loud declaration. Over 1,000 Hongfu clan members gathered outside, with each one raising their head to look at the three people who floated high up in the air. They all talked about it, and many of them were filled with terror. They're people of the Huang family. They've come for revenge. The people of the Huang family have actually come, and called out the names of the two grand elders. They must be powerful saint rulers. Quick, go report it to clan lord. The ancestor of the Huang family has come himself. What use is there reporting it to the clan lord? Hurry up and get the two grand elders. Hurry up and give the orders, make the entire clan take guard. The Huang family wants to battle with our Hongfu clan. They definitely brought a lot of people. The comments made by the members of the Hongfu clan mixed with the commands several higher-ranking people, which caused the entire manor to fall into a hubbub. The groups of people in the manor moved about, with all the powerful members heading off in all directions, to prevent the invasion of a large number of troops. Closely afterwards, 3 people flew out from the back of the Hongfu clan manor. Their speed was extremely quick, so with only a flash, they had traversed several kilometers and appeared high up in the sky, opposite of Jian Chun, newbies and Huang Tianba. The 3 people were the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan and the Yin family lord. However, when the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan saw Jian Chun and the gold-clothed newbies standing by Huang Tianba, their expressions became extremely ugly. Looks like my guess is correct. Jian Chun and the Huang family's relationship really isn't simple, and has basically reached a level where they treat the Hongfu clan as a common enemy. The Yin family mumbled inwardly. The simultaneous arrival of Jian Chun and newbies with Huang Tianba had his guess. Huang Tianba swept his gaze coldly across the people before him, and said with a cold smile, Jin Tian Jin Feng, you were right a few days ago. The grievances between our 2 families has gone on for too long, and it is about time to resolve it. Huang Tianba's gaze landed on the Yin family lord. Yin family lord, do you plan on fighting alongside with the Hongfu clan? Hearing what was said, the Yin family lord's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly moved away from the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan, and smiled apologetically. Today, I purposely came to dissolve the engagement with the Hongfu clan, and do not want to battle alongside with the Hongfu clan. Huang Tianba, you must not misunderstand this. From today onwards, matters of the Hongfu clan no longer have anything to do with my Yin family. The Yin family lord already knew that the Hongfu clan was beyond salvation, so he put it harshly, directly severing his connection to the Hongfu clan. Brother Jianchen, a few days ago, I have offended you very much. I am aware of my mistake, and wish that Brother Jianchen can be the bigger person, and forgive the stupid things I have done in my ignorance. I will definitely bring generous gifts and personally visit to apologize in the future. The Yin family lord's tone was euphemistic and extremely sincere, completely foregoing his identity as the lord of a family. This was because in his heart, if he could erase Jian Chen's discontent for the Yin family, he could even give up his position as the family lord. After all, Jian Chen was someone he definitely could not offend. Seeing how sincere the Yin family lord was, Jian Chen did not act pettily and said straightforwardly, as long as the Yin family lord does not interfere with the matters today, as well as guarantee that you will not treat us with hostility in the future, the small matters from a few days ago can be wiped off the slate. Hearing what Jian Chen had said, the Yin family lord became overjoyed at the unexpected good outcome. He laughed aloud. Good for Brother Jian Chen to be so frank. I feel admiration. I'm definitely making you a friend of mine. Brother Jian Chen, my Yin family is situated on Mount Shishi several tens of thousand kilometers away. If there is anything in the future that our Yin family can help with, feel free to ask. As long as my Yin family has the power, we will definitely not shy away from it, and help you with all of our ability. Chapter 683. Chasing to kill the Yin family. Lord knew exactly how powerful Jian Chun was, as well as the fact that his talent was currently unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent, and his future prospects would be inconceivable. As a result, as soon as the chance appeared, he would immediately attempt to ingratiate himself with Jian Chun, unwilling to miss any chances of developing a good relationship with Jian Chun. The Yin family lord is too polite. In the future, if Jian Chun has any areas that would require help, then I would have to trouble the Yin family. Jian Chun looked at the Yin family lord with a smile, and his hands clasped. He did not turn down the Yin family lord's attempt to curry favor, as after all, the Yin family was a hermit family that possessed a powerful saint ruler, and could not be so easily ignored. If he maintained a relationship with those types of families, no matter if it was for him, the Changyang clan or the Flame mercenaries, it was definitely a good thing. Ha ha ha. It's not troublesome at all. My Yin family is extremely willing to help Brother Jian Chun handle matters within our ability. The Yin family laughed without restraint, seeming to be extremely happy. Brother Jian Chun, I will not be delaying you any further. The Yin family just happens to have some small matters that require me to resolve, so I will be leaving first. In the future, if Brother Jian Chun has the time, Brother Jian Chun is welcome to come visit my Yin family as a guest. The Yin family lord did not stay for long, and left as soon as he said his farewells to Jian Chun. The two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan watched the Yin family lord leave with gloomy expressions. When the Yin family lord severed his relationship with them at this crucial moment, it caused the two of them to be extremely mad, but they felt completely helpless. Jin Tian, Jin Feng. Our two families have already been locked in constant strife for several thousand years. It should completely end today. Huang Tianba looked at the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan with a cold smile, while in his hand, a golden longbow had already appeared. It was a ruler armament, the cylinder bow. However, Jin Tian and Jin Feng did not pay any attention to Huang Tianba. One of them looked at Jian Chun. Jian Chun, regarding what had happened a few days ago with the tungsten alloy mine, the two of us indeed have gone overboard. We will sincerely apologize to you right here, so we wish that you will not interfere between matters of our Hongfu clan and the Huang family. As long as you and this dear friend stand down, the two of us will gift you a ruler armament. How you feel about this, Jian Chun? Hearing what was said, the corner of Jian Chun's lips curled into a scornful cold smile. However, he did not say anything. Seeing how Jian Chun did not reply, a saint ruler of the Hongfu clan continued. Jian Chun, if you feel unsatisfied about the offer, we can add an additional condition. In the future, my Hongfu clan will help you do 3 things under any conditions, as long as they fall under our ability. Does this satisfy you? Ha 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 ha, Jin Tian, Jian Feng. What you've done just now really has broadened my horizons. Who would have thought you would actually have thoughts like this? However, I'd persuade you to give up on this. How can Brother Jian Chun be roped into your side with just these cheap bargains? Huang Tianba laughed. He looked at the two saint rulers, his gaze full of ridicule. Senior Huang has put it well. The two of you should give up on this. Jian Chun conformed to what Huang Tianba had said. The expressions of the two saint rulers changed. What if we gift 2 ruler armaments to you? We only need you, Jian Chun, and that brother to stand down and not interfere with what's happening between our Hongfu clan and the Huang family. This time, the two saint rulers did not hold back at all. They understood very well that if Jian Chun and newbies worked together with Huang Tianba, they had no chance of victory, even with the ruler armaments. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, quit rambling. When we kill the 2 of you, won't the 2 ruler armaments you possess end up in our hands anyway? Take this, Huang Tianba said with a cold smile, before directly drawing the longbow. A golden energy arrow quickly formed, before turning into a ray of golden light, shooting towards one of them like a bolt of lightning. The two saint rulers already knew that the arrows shot by the cylinder bow could not be dodged. Their reactions were not slow, drawing their ruler armaments at the same time. The 2 ruler armaments radiated with a dazzling light, and the aftershock from the great energy that flowed out from the ruler armaments caused the surrounding space to greatly distort. Closely afterwards, the two swung their ruler armaments simultaneously, shooting out two great streams of energy to block the incoming golden energy arrow. Bang! The golden energy arrow and the energy from the two ruler armaments clashed mid-air, giving off a great deafening bang. The aftereffects from gathering the great amounts of energy wreaked havoc everywhere. It were as if a violent gust of wind suddenly began to blow in the air, and between the two groups, the space had been shattered, creating a fist-sized black hole. However, it returned to as it was before with the blink of an eye. With every clashing of the powerful saint rulers, it contained the power capable of moving and destroying the earth. Every time they clashed, the powerful aftershocks created from the great energy would affect the manor below. The ground which the manor stood on immediately began to crack and fissure, with several buildings collapsing one after another. With the blink of an eye, the originally untouched manor had become a mess. Your distinguished self, the great newbies, their power is around the same, so keep any one of them busy. Brother Jian-chun, we should work together to kill one. Huang Tianba's tone seemed to carry some excitement. The 1,000-year-old enmity that always weighed on the Huang family's chest was about to be put to an end, so it moved him very much inside. Leave that person on the right for me to handle. Newbies clenched his fist, and in the next moment, there was only a flash of golden light. He disappeared from where he originally was, directly rushing at Jin Feng, who wielded a long spear. Senior Huang, use the ruler armament to keep him busy. I'll go over and handle him, Jian-chun said to Huang Tianba, before rushing towards Jin Tian, who wielded a sword. Before, when he still had not become a saint ruler, he had the ability to match up with the saint ruler of the fourth heavenly layer. Now that he had already become a saint ruler, Jian-chun urgently wanted to try out his current strength. Brother Jian-chun, be careful of the ruler armament in his hands. You must not take it head-on. Huang Tianba was unable to stop him even if he wanted to, so he could only warn him. The two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan became extremely solemn. Glancing at the manor that had already fallen into an utter mess below, the two immediately seemed to have a tacit understanding. Turning into a flash, the two of them borrowed the spatial force to quickly flee far away. Wanna run? Not that easy. Newbies sneered and followed closely, using spatial force to chase Jin Feng. Jian-chun did not hesitate, and also used spatial force to closely chase after Jin Tian. However, Jin Tian had reached a greater level of comprehension, which meant that his level of understanding for the spatial force far exceeded Jian-chun's. As a result, he pulled ahead by several kilometers just in the blink of an eye. Huang Tianba stood where he was before, slowly drawing the longbow in a calm and composed fashion. He directly shot out an invisible energy arrow. The energy arrow was formed from the world energy. It was invisible and formless, completely undetectable to the naked eye. The arrow formed from world energy tightly locked onto Jin Tian's presence. It seemed to even possess the power to teleport through space. It chased after Jin Tian with an even greater speed, immediately traversing several dozen kilometers, arriving behind Jin Tian. Chapter 684. Punch. Feeling how he was about to be hit by the invisible arrow, Jin Tian did not run any further. He immediately stopped, and the saint force within him surged violently like a wild river, flowing into his ruler armament. It caused the sword-shaped ruler armament in his hand to glow with dazzling light, even causing the scorching sun in the sky to seem dim. The great, vast energy caused the world to tremble, and the surrounding space seemed to almost shatter in attempt to contain the powerful energy. Ha! Jin Tian suddenly yelled aloud, and the ruler armament in his hand turned into a ray of silver light. It flashed like lightning as he swung it, cutting open a 3-meter-long, black crack in the space in front of him. Bang! The ruler armament and the invisible arrow formed from world force rammed into each other, and a sound greater than before erupted forth. The violent energy aftershocks flooded the area, causing the space within a radius of several hundred meters to become heavily distorted. After the strike, Jin Tian's complexion immediately began to pale somewhat. A quiet, muffled grunt came out through his throat with difficulty, as he flew backwards uncontrollably. Jin Tian already received some internal injuries. Although he and Huang Tianba both had ruler armaments, it was not enough to bridge the huge gap between their power. The arrow shot out by Huang Tianba was also created from World Force, a power that could not be compared to Saint Force. As a result, just from the first time they had clashed, Jin Tian already received a few light injuries. Jin Tian shot through the sky like a shooting star, flying backwards for a whole several kilometers before slowly stabilizing himself. He looked at Huang Tianba, who was currently chasing behind him with an ugly expression. The light in his eyes flickered, and he muttered inwardly, "The two of us definitely are not opponents to Huang Tianba and the other two. If we continue, there is only death. Whatever, there's always hope when there's life. Staying alive is most important. As long as I am still alive, even if the Hongfu clan falls, I can just rebuild it in the future." Jin Tian already lost all intention to battle, and thoughts of retreat bloomed. However, just when Jin Tian made up his mind to flee with all his strength, without any more regardless for other things, the space before him began to fluctuate. He only saw that Jian Chun, who had also used spatial force, had already caught up, with a fist directly heading towards his head. Jian Chun's punch was extremely ordinary. It did not contain the presence of any force, and seemed just like a powerless fist. However, it was exactly such an ordinary-looking punch that had caused Jin Tian to become solemn, unwilling to underestimate it even in the slightest. This was because he could clearly feel that the surrounding space in which Jian Chen's fist had passed through seemed to be squeezed by a great power. Jin Tian did not dare to be careless. Saint Force coalesced in his hand like a great surging river, and he swung it at Jian Chen. He did not hold back at all with the strike, directly using his full power. When the punches met each other, a muffled sound erupted, similar to muffled thunder. The violent energy aftershock exploded where their fists had met, rushing wildly in all directions. It seemed to even be able to create a gust of violent wind in a land beyond the 9 heavens. Crack! The bones of Jin Tian's entire left arm became fractured, and his arm drooped down powerlessly. How is this possible? Just what is this force, actually so strong? Jin Tian stared at Jian Chen out of shock, and his face was engulfed by disbelief. He could clearly feel that in Jian Chen's fist, there was actually an extremely strong and unknown, mysterious power hidden. The power was far stronger than the Saint Force he used. The moment the two came in contact, the Saint Force that covered his entire left arm was scattered by the mysterious but powerful power. Jian Chen curled the corner of his lips into a cold smile and said, "For someone who is about to die, there is no harm in telling you. At least it can let you die with content. This type of power is called chaotic force." "Chaotic force?" Jin Tian mumbled quietly. His face was shrouded with doubt. It was very obvious that he had never heard of chaotic force. However, Jian Chen did not give him any time to react. Chaotic force surged into every corner of his body, which caused the insane defense of chaotic force to be raised to the limit. Afterwards, he swung at Jin Tian again. Jin Tian returned to his senses very quickly, immediately retreating abruptly. The ruler armament in his right hand radiated brightly, becoming similar to the scorching sun radiating its dazzling light into the world. Afterwards, he chopped at Jian Chen's punch like lightning. Chapter 685. Acquiring the ruler armament. Brother Jian Chen, be careful of the ruler armament in his hands. You mustn't take it head-on. Huang Tianba's warning flashed through Jian Chen's mind. However, facing the ruler armament that was currently rushing at him, Jian Chen did not intend to dodge in the slightest. Only a sliver of madness flashed through his eyes while a great amount of chaotic force poured out of his chaotic Naiden, coalescing in his right fist. He directly swung the fist at the incoming ruler armament. This time, Jian Chen wanted to forcefully fend off the powerful ruler armament with his own flesh. This was because he was extremely confident in the defense of his chaotic body. Also, even with Jin Tian's strength in the 3rd heavenly layer paired with the ruler armament, it was still around the 4th heavenly layer, similar to the sect of Dragon and Tiger Sitiqing. It was definitely not as strong as the 5th heavenly layer, So even though such an attack could injure Jianchen, it definitely could not heavily injure him. Jianchen, you're looking to die yourself. Seeing how Jianchen actually wanted to use his body to forcefully block the ruler armament, Jin Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. This was because the power of the ruler armament was so strong that even someone in the 6th heavenly layer would not dare to receive it head-on, let alone Jianchen, whose strength was far from that. Bang! Jianchen's punch collided firmly with the edge of the ruler armament and actually gave off a sound of metal striking rock. Jianchen's fist did not even seem like a body part, but some type of extremely tough metal. The fist and ruler armament separated as soon as they collided, actually rebounding from the great energy. As for the two people, they also shot backwards from the strong rebound energy, finally stabilizing themselves after traveling over 100 meters. All that could be seen was the horrifying injury on Jianchen's right fist. It was bone deep, and had traveled halfway through his fingers. Fresh blood dyed his entire hand red. Over 100 meters away, Jin Tian stared at Jianchen's hand with his eyes full of surprise. He exclaimed in disbelief, how is this possible? Just what is your hand made of? The body of humans can never be this strong. I had even used a ruler armament, and it didn't even chop off your arm. This is impossible. Looking at Jin Tian in shock, Jianchen could not help but reveal a sneer. He glanced at his bloody hand, and with a slight thought, the chaotic force spewed out from the chaotic Niden in his dantian. Afterwards it quickly flowed into his right hand. At that moment, the destructive chaotic force seemed to turn into an extremely regenerative life force, actually healing the injury on Jianchen's hand with a speed that had even exceeded Radiant Saint force. Jianchen's chaotic body possessed very great regeneration abilities, but after using chaotic force for a period of time, Jianchen had already discovered that it had other wondrous uses. If chaotic force was gathered around an injury, it would make the injury regenerate even faster. The injury on Jianchen's right hand actually healed at a visible rate. Whether it was his skin or his finger bones that were almost broken, they all completely healed. The fresh blood on his hand even seemed to come alive, slowly withdrawing itself into the wound on the hand. Jin Tian's eyes had already become the size of bells, staring directly at Jianchen's palm. He had lived so long, yet this was the first time he had ever seen such an unimaginable sight. After a few breaths, Jianchen's right hand completely recovered and seemed no different from usual. There were not even any marks left by the blood. This is impossible, this is impossible, this is definitely impossible. Shock erupted in Jin Tian's heart as he mumbled at a loss. Even though he was a saint ruler, he was still deeply astonished by the extremely weird sight he had just seen. Just when Jin Tian was at a loss, a small ripple in space suddenly appeared in front of him. An arrow completely composed of the energy of the world had already arrived before him without any sign, directly piercing through Jin Tian's chest. TZK. A finger-sized hole appeared on Jin Tian's chest and quickly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to the size of a fist, passing through his chest. Bright red blood immediately spurted out of Jin Tian's body like a geyser, quickly dyeing his clothes red. A grunt of pain echoed from Jin Tian's mouth, and his complexion immediately began to pale. He also swayed mid-air, almost falling out of the sky. Being hit by an arrow completely formed from world force definitely was not good. Just a single arrow actually caused a proper saint ruler to be heavily injured. A light of interest flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He knew that this was a good chance to kill Jin Tian. With a flash, he utilized spatial force to traverse the 100 meters to arrive in front of Jin Tian. Using his just recovered right hand, he filled it with a tremendous surge of chaotic force and swung it at Jin Tian's head. Jin Tian was heavily injured, so all his powers had been greatly decreased. Jianchen's fist seemed to fuse with the space, firmly landing it on Jin Tian's head like a lightning bolt. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jin Tian's head had been struck, which caused his entire body to fly backwards far away. His skull was broken, and blood sprayed into the air like a lovely flower blooming mid-air. Jianchen knew that without wiping out the soul of a powerful saint ruler, it was impossible to kill one. even if their heads had caved in. He did not hesitate in the slightest, and with a flash, he chased Jin Tian, who was knocked flying like a lightning bolt through the use of spatial force. He threw another violent punch towards Jin Tian's head. Smack! This time, Jin Tian's entire head fell apart from Jian Chen's punch, with white brains mixed with blood flying in all directions. With that, Jin Tian had lost his ability to fly, falling out of the sky. Seeing how Jin Tian's head fall apart, Jian Chen finally let out a breath. It really was not simple to kill a saint ruler. If Jin Tian had not been heavily injured by the arrow from Huang Tianba, Jian Chen would not have been able to kill a powerful saint ruler so easily. Jian Chen's gaze landed on the ruler armament that was still tightly grasped by Jin Tian's corpse. He grabbed at it, and the sword-shaped ruler armament immediately left Jin Tian's hand, flying to him. Grasping the thin sword that was around the same size as the light wind sword, Jian Chen immediately felt like he had returned to the days of traveling only with a sword. With a sword in hand, there is only me. Jian Chen could not help but reveal a happy smile. He had finally found a suitable weapon, which had made him unable to suppress his excitement. Just at this moment, Jian Chen was slightly startled. He looked away from the ruler armament he had just obtained, and stared downwards with interest. He only saw that from the broken skull, a white ball of feeble light suddenly drifted out. As soon as the ball of light had appeared, it began to flee into the distance like a bolt of lightning. Swish! Just when the ball of light had traveled several hundred meters, a silver arrow chased up to it from behind, directly piercing through it. Ah! A desolate cry resounded from the ball of light, and the light began to disperse shortly afterwards. After a while it had completely disappeared. Brother Jian Chen, saint rulers have already refined their origin soul. Only by wiping out the origin soul can you truly kill a powerful saint ruler. That ball of light earlier was Jin Tian's origin soul. Huang Tianba said to Jian Chen with a smile as he hurried over from behind at his own pace. Chapter 686, The Dragon-Slaying Sword. Is that so? I thought saint rulers were the same as heaven saint masters. As long as their heads were smashed, their soul would also be extinguished. Jian Chen spoke with surprise. However, he also felt some doubt. Why did he not feel the origin soul Huang Tianba was talking about inside him? Perhaps it's because the sword spirits have combined with my presence, causing my soul to mutate, which is why I haven't refined an origin soul? Jian Chen questioned himself secretly. Huang Tianba chuckled. The origin souls of saint rulers are extremely hard to deal with. They're not as weak as heaven saint masters. If only the head is destroyed, it's not enough to wipe out the origin soul, and would require additional work. This time if we let Jin Tian's origin soul escape, he would return to how he was before without much time. Hearing that, a sliver of surprise flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. Are saint rulers able to rebuild their bodies with just the origin soul? That's not necessarily true. Although saint rulers are powerful, they don't have such a terrifying power. Huang Tianba shook his head and explained. It's because the origin souls of saint rulers have the ability to possess, to forcefully take over other people's bodies and survive in another form. Possess? I never thought that saint rulers would actually have such an ability. Hearing what Huang Tianba had said, Jian Chen gained a better understanding of the powers of saint rulers. Huang Tianba looked at the ruler armament in Jian Chen's hands. This is one of the 2 ruler armaments of the Hongfu clan, the dragon-slaying sword. The legends say that the original owner of the saint weapon had killed a peak class 7 black dragon, dyeing it with the blood of the black dragon. As a result, the sword was called the dragon-slaying sword by the first owner. Brother Jian Chen, do you feel that the sword is suitable? Jian Chen's gaze immediately landed on the ruler armament he had just obtained. Perhaps it was because of the loss of saint force. The light given off by the dragon-slaying sword was not as blinding as before. It was just that the sword was covered by a hazy layer of glittering light, so it seemed very out of the ordinary. Looking through the hazy layer, Jian Chen could vaguely see that the dragon-slaying sword was 2 fingers wide, and there was an image of a seemingly living dragon on it. He did not know how it appeared on it. Grasping the dragon-slaying sword, Jian Chen could not help but reveal a deep sense of happiness. It immediately caused his bearing to change, from that of an ordinary-looking person to something similar to a drawn treasured sword, showing off its abilities. In that moment, Jianchen completely changed. It was as if he had turned into a deity sword, a peerless deity sword planted between the heavens and the earth. Huang Tianba's gaze turned solemn. He could feel the soaring sword qi from Jianchen's aura. The sword qi was so abrupt that it had even caused him to feel fearful. Suddenly Jianchen's arm shook. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand immediately gave off a low resonance, sounding just like a black dragon roaring in anguish and lament. Afterwards, Jianchen swung his hand at great speed, striking out at an unbelievable speed. The dragon-slaying sword turned into several afterimages, enveloping all the space in front of him. The afterimages were so clustered that it was hard to tell what was real or fake. What a fast strike. I've never seen such an exquisite swordplay. Brother Jianchen really does hide his abilities. Who would have thought his swordplay is actually so great? Huang Tianba could not help but sigh. Only after using it to his heart's content did Jianchen slowly stop. He looked at the sword with joy. At that moment, the excitement inside him had already reached the maximum. Not only did the ruler armament make up for his awkwardness of being unarmed, it actually could also withstand chaotic force. This finally allowed him to be able to use his excelling areas in an exceptional way. Although chaotic force, together with the chaotic body, gave him great fighting strength, he was still a swordsman, a powerful sword user. Only with a sword could he feel at ease. Just at this moment, a series of loud sounds echoed from over 5 kilometers away. They only saw that in the distance, several mountain peaks had collapsed simultaneously, and a large amount of loose rock shot into the sky. Also, a powerful energy ripple turned into a violent whirlwind, which wreaked havoc everywhere it traveled. It had even caused Jianchen and Huang Tianba's clothes to flutter about wildly, even though it originated from 5 kilometers away. Brother Jianchen, you rest for a while. I'll go help newbies to kill Jinfeng. Huang Tianba called out to Jianchen, and then flew over with his longbow. In the distance, newbies and Jinfeng were still stuck in an intense battle. Although they were at a similar level in cultivation, newbies was an ancient magical beast. His battle ability could be compared to a powerful saint ruler of the 6th heavenly layer. Even with a ruler armament, Jinfeng definitely was not newbies' opponent, so it was an uphill battle for him. Also, he had already been poisoned by the venom of the silver-striped golden snake. It was currently spreading in his body, so at this very moment, Jinfeng's complexion had already turned to a bluish-black. Old man, even if you have a ruler armament in front of me, the great newbies, it's useless. Prepare to die. Newbies laughed aloud. He completely looked down on Jinfeng. The great newbies, I, Huang Tianba, have come to help you. Huang Tianba hurried to him from behind. Chapter 687. King of the Sword. Seeing Huang Tianba flying over quickly from the distance, newbies laughed aloud. I don't need your help. I can finish him off myself. Newbies suddenly radiated with a dazzling golden light. Countless strands of golden threads shot out from his body, flying towards Jin Tian abruptly. A portion of the golden threads tightly wounded around Jinfeng's ruler armament, while the other portion wrapped around Jinfeng. It enveloped his body like a cocoon, completely immobilizing him. Arg! Jinfeng yelled angrily upwards. The saint force within him surged out like water from a broken dam, attempting to forcefully break the golden threads. However, the golden threads were not everyday objects. Not only were they abnormally tough, they were extremely pliable. No matter how hard Jinfeng tried, he was unable to break through the binding. Old man, unless you have the power of the 4th heavenly layer, don't even think of escaping from the binding of my golden threads I have created. In front of me, the great newbies, you won't even have the ability to run away. Looking at Jinfeng, who was currently trying to break out with all of his might, newbies could not help but sneer at him. Afterwards, he used spatial force to arrive in front of Jinfeng in a flash. He used his right hand as a claw, directly passing through the golden threads and stabbing Jinfeng in the chest. He dug out the bloody heart from Jinfeng's body. Sniffing the heavy bloody smell that permeated into the air, His eyes became vaguely bloodshot. The sharp smell of blood had already began to slowly excite the bloodthirsty nature of his bloodline. Newbies stared ruthlessly at Jin Feng, who was currently wrapped in golden thread and in great pain. Tightening his grip, he immediately crushed the heart in his hand. He smiled coldly. Isn't it very painful? I've already forgotten how many people the great Newbies, have killed. As the first human saint ruler to die by my hands in the past few years, you should feel very honored. Now allow me to end your life. A golden ball of light suddenly appeared out of Newbies' right hand. Most of the power from the golden thread had already gathered around his hand, but just when he wanted to crush Jin Feng's head and wipe out the origin soul, a soaring sword chi suddenly rushed over from far away. The swiftness and ferocity of the sword chi was rarely seen in the world. It was like a terrifying gas that filled the surrounding space with great killing intent. In the next moment, a loud and clear voice accompanied the soaring sword chi from the distance. Newbies, let me finish him off. The bloodshot redness in Newbies' eyes slowly receded. Along with it, the bloodthirsty nature that had just been excited also slowly receded. As a Class 7 magical beast, although Newbies was unable to change the innate nature of magical beasts, he was still able to control his emotions at will. Newbies returned to normal very quickly. He turned around and looked at Jian Chun, who was currently approaching him. He could not help but feel shocked and mumbled, "Isn't it just a ruler armament? Why do I feel that Jian Chun has completely changed? That bearing actually even made me feel fearful. Since you want to finish off that old man, the great Newbies, will let you do it. I'll also get to see how powerful you are with the presence you are giving off." The golden threads binding Jin Feng returned to Newbies, and Jin Feng also regained his mobility. Afterwards, he did not hesitate in the slightest, immediately giving it his all to flee for his life. A sneer appeared on Huang Tianba's face. "In front of my Salinar Bao, there has not been a saint ruler that has successfully escaped." Huang Tianba grabbed the bow on his back, and a golden energy arrow formed from Saint Force quickly appeared. However, just when Huang Tianba was about to shoot the arrow, a sword chi rushed over from the distance. He only saw that several kilometers away, Jian Chun had swung his sword, and a powerful meter-long sword chi radiating with a dark, beautiful glow approached Jin Feng with an unbelievable speed. The sword chi was made entirely of chaotic force and contained extremely terrifying power. Wherever the sword chi had passed over, it would cause the space to crack. The sword chi was so quick that it seemed to be able to teleport, completely exceeding Jin Feng's escape speed. Just after fleeing for a few kilometers, Jin Feng was caught up by the sword chi. Afterwards, it passed through him like a hot knife through butter. Arg! Jin Feng immediately gave off a shrill cry. Chaotic force was extremely powerful. When the sword chi formed from chaotic force had passed through his body, a small amount of the force was deposited into his body. At this moment, the tiny amount of chaotic force was wreaking violent havoc in his body, quickly obliterating his inner organs. His powerful saint force was actually unable to do anything about the tiny amount of chaotic force. No matter how he tried, he was unable to extinguish the chaotic force. Just what is this power? Jin Tian's heart was filled with dread. The residue power in his body was the first time he had ever seen such a powerful energy. Before, he had not ever seen or heard such a power, because the strength of it had exceeded his understanding to the various forces of Tian Yuan continent. What a great energy! That strike actually is completely equal to one from a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler. Brother Jian Chun, just how did he become so strong? Even if he had obtained a ruler armament, his strength definitely could not have increased so greatly. Huang Tianba sighed in surprise secretly. The power of Jian Chun's strike had shocked him, because he knew very well that Jian Chun had just become a saint ruler. However, when Huang Tianba thought about it again, he remembered how Jian Chun was outstanding in every aspect and could not be judged on a normal standard. As a result, he was relieved of the previous thought. He only stared at Jian Chun with a complicated expression and used a voice only he could hear to mumble, "Looks like the publicly recognized #1 expert of Tianyun continent will appear again soon." Brother Jianchen has such unbelievable accomplishments even though he is still in his 20s. Other than the city lord of Mercenary City, Tianyun, perhaps there is no one else in the Tianyun continent that can be compared to him. Newbies was also completely astounded. He stared at Jianchen flabbergasted and was extremely uncalm in his heart. He had naturally felt the strike Jianchen had struck out. Even though he possessed the body of an ancient beast, he definitely could not withstand the blow. As a magical beast, he possessed a heaven-sent advantage and was stronger than humans in various aspects. However, newbies could clearly feel that the sword Qi struck out by Jianchen actually possessed an extremely terrifying power. Not only was the power extremely overbearing, it was filled with destruction. With his innate and terrifying instincts as a magical beast, newbies had even felt that there was nothing in the world that could stop the destruction of the terrifying power. That terrifying power isn't recorded in my inherited memories. Does this mean that it's never appeared on the Tianyun continent before? Perhaps it's just because no silver-striped golden snake has come across it before. I really wonder whether Jianchen is a reincarnation of Tianyun now. Other than Tianyun, who else on the Tianyun continent has such terrifying talent and battle capability? Also, the force used by Tianyun was just as terrifying. Newbies glanced at Jianchen with an extremely complicated expression. At this moment, Jianchen's status in his heart had already undergone some minor changes. With the fusion of man with sword, Jianchen had become a sword. His entire body had suddenly turned into something similar to a sharp sword and charged at Jin Feng. Although his speed was not as fast as traveling with the use of spatial force, it was not much slower. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had arrived in front of Jin Feng. He poured the chaotic force from his body into the ruler armament, and the glittering glow of the ruler armament was immediately suppressed, giving off a dark, beautiful glow. Jianchen quickly swung his hand. The dragon-slaying sword immediately turned into densely packed sword which enveloped Jin Feng. With every blow Jianchen struck out, there were profound principles behind them. The swordplay was extremely exquisite, as if it was heaven-made. It was so perfect and so flawless. Arg! Being enveloped by the swords, Jin Feng gave out a shrill cry. Fresh blood constantly splashed everywhere, and in a short 2 breaths, Jin Feng had already turned into a blood-washed man. Horrifying wounds covered on his body, and he had no inch untouched. In such a short moment, Jianchen had caused over 1,000 wounds on Jin Feng's body. Newbies and Huang Tianba who were spectating from afar gasped together. They looked at Jianchen in astonishment. At this very moment, a thought appeared in their heads simultaneously. What a fast sword! Who would have thought Brother Jianchen is actually so terrifying with a sword? Before, I definitely underestimated him. Perhaps this is Brother Jianchen's true strength. Such a fast speed in striking is just too scary. If it's speed, who can be his opponent? Huang Tianba said in his heart. Whoosh! At this moment, the dragon-slaying sword flashed, turning into a blur which slid across Jin Feng's throat. Jin Feng's head and body immediately separated, with his head thrown high up into the air. Jianchen's expression was cold and shot a swift but forceful glance at Jin Feng's head. Afterwards, he immediately chased after it. The dragon-slaying sword in his hands gave out a deep hum. It was the sound created from the great drag between the high-speed sword and the air. Afterwards, he directly thrust it out in the simple fashion, piercing Jin Feng's head in between the brows and traveling to the other side of the skull. Jianchen did not wait for Jin Feng's origin soul to escape, and the chaotic force contained within the dragon-slaying sword immediately erupted, blowing up Jin Feng's head and directly wiping out the origin soul hidden inside altogether. Chapter 688. Arrival of a Gilligan clan king. Jin Feng's body fell out of the air powerlessly, landing firmly on a mountain peak below. A saint ruler had just fallen like that. Jianchen put his sword away and remained where he was. The shocking aura of his slowly receded, and in the blink of an eye, he went from a divine sword showing off its abilities to as ordinary as he was before. The special traits of saint rulers appeared on him again. Although he just seemed to stand there casually, his body actually seemed to completely merge with the space around him. as if he was one with the world. The chaotic force injected in the dragon-slaying sword was completely withdrawn by Jianshen, so the dark, beautiful glow on the sword had already disappeared. Now the hazy, glittering light originally suppressed by the chaotic force reappeared, covering up the dragon-slaying sword's appearance. Jianshen floated in the sky, looking at Jin Feng's corpse with a complicated expression. Today the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan had died, but only Jin Feng could really be considered as being killed Jianshen's hands. This was because Jin Feng's origin soul was wiped out by he himself, unlike how Jin Tian's origin soul was wiped out by Huang Tianba. After personally killing a saint ruler, Jianshen was also slightly moved. This was because powerful people like this were not common on the Tianyun continent. Not only were they small in numbers, every one of them held a great position, an existence that truly stood on the apex of the Tianyun continent. Brother Jianshen's performance really has broadened my horizons. Who would have thought Brother Jianshen's attainments in the sword are actually so great, actually so terrifying when using the sword? That speed in striking is probably unparalleled on the Tianyun continent. Huang Tianba appeared in front of Jianshen at a certain time, and praised with a face full of shock. What he had said completely originated from his heart, not honeyed, made-up words to curry favor from Jianshen. Newbies also flew over from afar. He gazed at Jianshen with an extremely complicated gaze. Before, that sword you struck out was not any weaker than a saint ruler of the fifth heavenly layer. Who would have thought that after becoming a saint ruler, your strength would have such a great change from just a ruler armament? Hearing the two of them talk, Jianshen was not physically moved at all and remained calm. He gazed at the dragon-slaying sword in front of him in a trance. All of this comes from the sword. If I did not have this sword, I definitely would not be able to kill a saint ruler so easily, even if he or she was already heavily injured. As long as the sword in my hands, I can perform better than normal. Looks like this ruler armament just happens to be suitable with Brother Jianshen. Only when such a valuable ruler armament is a great swordsman's hands, like Brother Jianshen, will not be insulting to it. Before, when this ruler armament was in Jin Feng's hands, the radiance it deserved was completely covered up. Huang Tianba could not help but praise some more. Afterwards he looked down, and with a casual flick of his hand, a 3-meter-long long spear flew up from below. It had a thickness of a wrist, and gave off a hazy glow. Huang Tianba examined the long spear for a while before passing it to Jianshen. He smiled. Brother Jianshen, this ruler armament's original name is the all-devastating divine spear. It's a very bold name. It's one of the treasures of the Hongfu clan, along with the dragon-slaying sword. They're passed down with each generation. Now that Jin Feng and Jin Tian, this all-devastating spear belongs to Brother Jianshen. Jianshen tore his eyes from the dragon-slaying sword to observe the all-devastating divine spear. The name of it was very bold, but there was nothing special about the appearance of the spear. It was no different from an ordinary spear, except for the fact that it had the additional presence of a ruler armament. Senior Huang, this sword is enough for me. You should keep the ruler armament. With 2 ruler armaments, the strength of your Huang family should increase quite a lot. Jianshen declined. Huang Tianba chuckled. My Huang family is not an ancient clan, unable to possess multiple ruler armaments. The more ruler armaments there are, the worse it is for our Huang family. They're like hot potatoes. As with every one of them, more power is needed to protect them. Although my Huang family is now without any grievances, just 1 ruler armament is enough. Also, there's no one in my Huang family who uses the spear. So even if I take it, the all-devastating divine spear is useless to my Huang family. It's better if Brother Jianshen keeps it. Jianshen hesitated for a while, but still extended his hand to take the all-devastating divine spear in the end. He said, since it's like that, I'll temporarily hold on to the spear. Ha ha ha, Brother Jianshen does not need to be polite. Without your help, I definitely would not have been able to kill Jin Feng and Jin Tian so easily. This is something Brother Jianshen deserves. Huang Tianba paused and clasped his hands at Jianshen. Brother Jianshen, the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan are dead, but there are still remaining forces deeply hidden. I must hurry back to Huang family to make arrangements, to properly uproot them to prevent future problems. I'll be leaving first. After bidding farewell to Jianchen, Huang Tianba immediately hurried towards the Huang family. It left Jianchen and newbies floating lonesomely midair. Jianchen glanced at the spear in his hand, and then passed it to newbies. He smiled. Newbies, your performance today is good. I have no use for this spear, so you should just take it. Seeing Jianchen actually give a ruler armament, which was treasured by saint rulers in such a magnanimous fashion, newbies was deeply moved. He smiled. I'm not used to using this thing. Also, I am a silver-striped golden snake, a beast of antiquity. My strength in battle itself is already extremely powerful, so I don't need to use anything else. You should keep that thing. Don't forget that there's a huge group of people under you. When the time is right, giving it to them is pretty good too. It'll strengthen your flame mercenaries. Looks like I can't even give this ruler armament away. Jianchen took back the all-devastating divine spear with a bitter smile, and then threw it into his space ring. Newbies, let's go back. It's the great newbies. Jianchen collected Jin Feng and Jin Tian's space rings before leaving, returning to where the flame mercenaries were. In that period of time, the flame mercenaries became more and more well-known. They had 3 powerful saint rulers, which made them a peak-level force without a doubt. They became the strongest known existence in a radius of 100,000 kilometers, with only the hermit clans and families hidden in the wilderness able to resist against them. However, within the hermit clans and families, the captain of the flame mercenaries, Jianchen, had also become a well-known figure. Last time, when several hermit clans and 2 ancient clans fought over the tungsten alloy mine, Jianchen had invited the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. The news of the Grand Elder heavily injuring a Saint King of the Aoyan clan, with just a glance had already spread. It caused a hubbub in the hermit forces, which made the hermit clans and schools unwilling to provoke the flame mercenaries. As a result, it was extremely peaceful for the flame mercenaries in that period of time. Also, the mining of the tungsten alloy began on a large scale without concealing anything. Not only did they pay a high price for a large amount of locals to come and mine, they had even recruited people from the surrounding kingdoms on a large scale, allowing the flame mercenaries to mine a large amount of tungsten alloy every day. 2 days later, in the conference hall of the flame mercenaries, the higher-ranking members and a few important people gathered together. As for Jianchen, he currently sat at the end with a small, white tiger sleeping comfortably in his hands. He carried the bearing of a leader. Brother, this is a draft drawn up by the higher-ranking members, sister you and me. Right now, we have an inexhaustible supply of tungsten alloy, so we plan to use the allow to build a city wall. A city wall completely composed of tungsten alloy. I wonder if brother has any other ideas. Brother, your sister's idea is good. Using tungsten alloy to build a city wall is something that has never happened on the Tianyun continent. If we really succeed in building this city wall, I swear that it'll definitely be the sturdiest, strongest, and most expensive city wall on the Tianyun continent. Even the 7 capitals will pale in comparison to it. Ming Dong said excitedly. Jianchen glanced over the images drawn on the paper and nodded with a smile. Liener, Yuer, let's do it like you planned. You think through things very thoroughly, and do things in a way that doesn't cause me worry. If it's possible, let's just go with your idea, using tungsten alloy to build the sturdiest city on Tianyun continent. Yes, brother. Bai Lian was excited. It was her who had thought of this idea. So as soon as she thought about the fact that the sturdiest city on Tianyun continent would be designed by her, she was filled with a great amount of pride. Bang! Suddenly there was a loud sound. The closely shut doors of the conference hall were kicked open forcefully by someone. The sturdy doors made from ironwood directly transformed into flying pieces of wood, surprising everyone who was currently in the hall. Sitting in the hall, Jianchen, newbies and Jietai immediately became serious. They stared outside the hall out of surprise, because with their strength, they did not feel who was responsible for what had happened at all. This caused the 3 of them to be shrouded in disbelief. Under the gaze of the 3, a large, middle-aged man in simple clothing walked in from outside. The man was over 2.5 meters in height, with a tough and stocky body. He seemed to be tall and sturdy, with a fierce and tough-looking face. Chapter 689. Calamity. Everyone in the conference hall was surprised by the sudden scene. They all stared at the middle-aged man, completely at a loss. After all, this was the center of the Flame Mercenaries. The security was so strict that there was basically 3 layers of guards both inside and outside. Even a fly would not have been able to fly in. As for just how the man got in and smashed the door of the conference hall, it completely mystified everyone. After all, with the Flame Mercenaries' current name and strength, no one in a radius of several hundred kilometers dared to come provoke them. Jianchen, newbies and Jeditai's gazes all gathered on the man who had suddenly broke in. However, when newbies saw the appearance of the man properly, his expression changed greatly. His face was filled with disbelief and could not help but call out, "It's actually you, WH. Why have you come?" Jianchen glanced at newbies who was beside him, and also felt a wave of doubt. Newbies' behavior clearly indicated he knew who this man was. Jianchen just did not understand what had made newbies lose his composure so much. The man stared at Jianchen with his forceful gaze and sneered. "Who would have thought you little snake would choose to serve a human? Willing to become a lackey of a human? That's really surprising. Doesn't an ancient silver-striped gold snake view its dignity with more importance than its life? You little snake really are some exception." Hearing the man's challenging words and tone, newbies immediately became unhappy. Silver-striped golden snakes indeed would put their dignity above everything else, and what the man said had already crossed newbies' bottom line. Without even considering what status the man held, he sneered. "What I, the great newbies, does is none of your concern. Not just you, even the great king has no right to it." The man continued to sneer. "You only dare to say that in front of me. If the great king was here, would you really dare to say it?" Newbies was overcome by mixed emotions. He grinded his teeth as he stared at the man, but he did not say anything more, because the man was right. Even though Newbies was so prideful, in front of the great king, he could only hold back his proud nature. The man did not continue to bicker with Newbies. His gaze landed on the small white tiger that was sleeping in Jianchen's hands, displaying complicated and happy emotions. "You must be Jianchen. Relax, I won't be troubling you. Just hand the small tiger to me and nothing will happen," the man said with an extremely cold tone as he stared at Jianchen expressionlessly. Hearing that the man actually wanted the small white tiger in his hands, Jianchen's heart immediately froze. He stared at the man with a gaze of shock and doubt, and asked with a soft voice, "Who are you?" The man smiled coldly. He glanced at the gold-clothed newbies. "He knows who I am." Jianchen immediately looked at newbies. Actually, he already vaguely knew the identity of the man. He just needed verification. "Jianchen, he's one of the 2 great kings of the Gilligan clan, the Tiger King Anderkin." With an ugly expression, Newbies replied in a low voice. "What, he's a king from the Gilligan clan? Is it that Gilligan clan from the depths of the Cross Mountains?" Jeditai could not help but exclaim from surprise. As a peak-level expert who had become a saint ruler many years ago, he was familiar with the Gilligan clan. It was an extremely powerful clan. Not only were the 2 kings powerful saint kings, they had a total of 12 or so saint rulers of various species. Even the ancient clans did not dare to provoke the Gilligan clan. Also, the depths of the Cross Mountains was a forbidden regions to all humans, so even human saint rulers did not dare to intrude the region. Jianchen's expression immediately became extremely ugly. Although he already knew that a king from the Gilligan clan would come looking him sooner or later, he did not think it would actually be so soon. After all, it was only so long since he had met the little white tiger, and the Tianyin continent was so big. To be able to find him in the sea of people was as hard as fishing a needle from an ocean. Noticing Jianchen's change in expressions, the man smiled coldly. "Jianchen, you don't need to be scared. As long as you give me that cub, I'll leave immediately. I won't cause you any trouble." Jianchen stared at the man and said softly, "You've actually left the depths of the Cross Mountains and entered the world of us humans. Have you forgotten the agreement set by our human experts and your cross mountains before? The consequences to breaking the agreement are not light. This time, it was the man's turn to experience a change in expression. He stared at Jianchen coldly. Now that I'm here, I only need the twitch of a finger to kill you all. Jianchen, you're a smart person. You should make the correct decision. I believe you won't do something stupid. Now obediently the tiger to me. Don't make me do it. Tiger King, you've already stepped onto the Tianyun continent. If you dare to start a massacre on the Tianyun continent, the human experts definitely will not let you go. Even if you return to the Gilligan clan, you won't be able to escape from the human experts. Newbie said softly. Also, something I forgot to tell you, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City is supporting Jianchen from behind. What, he knows the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? The man was immediately surprised. There was restraining fear in the depths of his eyes. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City is my uncle. Sir, I don't care who you are. If you dare to harm my brother, I'll immediately invite my uncle. My uncle may be still in Mercenary City, but if he wants to come over, he only needs the blink of an eye. Ming Dong opened his mouth. Although he was still extremely unsure about the entire situation, he already knew from Newbie's introduction that the man in front of him was a king from a powerful clan capable of terrifying newbies and Jeditai. The man stood there with mixed emotions. Afterwards, all the worry in his gaze was replaced by mockery. Staring them, he smiled coldly. You should save it. You really think I'm as easy to trick as a 3-year-old kid? Jianchen, I'll say it one last time. Immediately give me the tiger, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. I don't care who you are, but if you want me to give you the winged tiger god, it won't happen. Jianchen replied without any additional thought. Afterwards, he sandwiched the winged tiger god in his left armpit and drew the dragon-slaying sword from his space ring with his right hand. With the sword in hand, Jianchen's entire presence underwent a complete change. He immediately became a treasured sword displaying its abilities. The aura from his body seemed to directly rush into the heavens, and similar to a divine sword, he gave off an overwhelming presence. Looks like I have to do it. The man revealed a cruel smile and advanced with each step. Swish! Suddenly, Jianchen left the ground, directly punching a hole in the roof of the conference hall. Only when he was outside could he use his full strength without any worry, such as injuring other people from the ripples of battle. Jianchen, hurry up and call for the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Only he can deal with this. Just when Jianchen rushed through the roof, he heard Newbie's voice. Hearing that, Jianchen felt pained. In the fight last time over the tungsten alloy mine, when Tianjin suddenly appeared, it was because he had once given a piece of jade to Huang Tianba to contact him. However, the jade had been shattered, and there was not another one. Even if he wanted to get Tianjin to help him, he did not have the ability. You actually dare to fight against me. What arrogance and conceitedness. Perhaps you actually think that your puny strength is enough to fight against me? The king from the Gilligan clan sneered as he watched Jianchen soar into the sky. Afterwards, he followed him without hurrying. With his strength, he was not worried about Jianchen running away at all. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen and the king from the Gilligan clan disappeared from the conference hall, leaving behind a group of people wide-eyed and lost as to what they should do. Oh my god, 2 seniors, what are you staring there for? Hurry up and go help my brother. Fight him together. When Bai Lian finally returned to her senses, she immediately looked at Newbies and Jeditai with a pleading gaze. Currently in the hall, they were the 2 who possessed the strongest strength. Alas! Jeditai gave a long sigh. He was overwhelmed with helplessness. Newbie shrugged and said innocently, "Little sister, it's not that we're not helping Jianchen, it's that this matter is already beyond our capabilities. You probably don't know the strength of the king from the Gilligan clan. It's not something we can deal with at all. Even if we go, we'll just be looking to die." What is going on? An old voice originated from afar. As soon as the voice disappeared, an elderly man in long, blue robes had already appeared in the conference hall. He was the patriarch of the Bai clan Bai Hai, who had been alerted by Jianchen's change in presence. Seeing the patriarch, Bai Lian immediately grabbed the patriarch's hand like grabbing a life-saving branch. She said hurriedly, "Fantastic, fantastic, grandfather, you finally come. Brother is fighting a powerful opponent. Grandpa, you need to quickly go help him." Hearing that, Bai Hai became serious. He immediately turned to Newbies and Jetta. "Just what is going on?" Newbies sighed lightly. "The person is a king from the Gilligan clan. He's a tiger that's already reached class 8. Even if we work together, we are not his opponent. So if we go, we're going for nothing. We can only call for the Grand Elder of Mercenary City." "What? That person's a magical beast that has already reached the strength of a Saint King. Oh no, it'll be troublesome now. All the items Uncle Tian has left behind to contact him have been used up. I can't contact Uncle Tian." Ming Dong's expression changed greatly. He was extremely worried. Chapter 690. The Juncture of Danger. What, you can't contact the Grand Elder? Hearing what Ming Dong had said, Newbies' expression changed greatly. Ming Dong was very anxious. The reason why Uncle Tian could arrive on time last time was because he gave a piece of jade that could contact him to Huang Tianba. Now that the jade has been used up, the objects Uncle Tian originally left for me to contact him have also been used up, so I can't contact him anymore. It'll be troublesome this time. The opponent is a powerful Saint King, so how can Jianshan be his opponent? Bai Hai inferred some of the details from the conversation between the two, and also became extremely anxious. He said, "Just how did my great-grandson provoke an expert like that? And he's even a king from the Gilligan clan. No, he is the only hope for my Bai clan. I definitely can't let him die so young like this. No matter how strong the enemy is, I must save him even if I lose my old life." Saying that, Bai Hai was prepared to fly out through the hole in the roof created by Jianshan. However, just when he was about to move, he was stopped by Newbies. "You old senile fool. You don't even know how strong a Saint King is. With your strength as a Saint ruler of the 5th heavenly layer, you can't even change anything. If a Saint King wants to kill you, it's only a matter of the twitch of a finger. Even if you go, you'll just die for nothing." Newbies scolded, "I don't know if my grandfather can save Jianshan, but I'll immediately call for grandfather." Little Fatty understood that Jianshan was in danger. After mentioning this, he immediately bit a finger on his left hand, dripping the blood onto the space ring on his right hand. Newbies became rather agitated. Hearing what Little Fatty had said, he immediately began snapped. "Who do you think your grandfather is? Even if he comes, he's useless. He's gotta be the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, or some peerless expert from some ancient clan. The opponent's a king from the Gilligan clan, okay? A bloody class 8 tiger. There's so few people that can fight against him, it's countable. You're not allowed to speak ill of my grandfather. My grandfather's really powerful." Seeing how Newbies belittled his grandfather, it made Little Fatty extremely unhappy. He yelled at Newbies angrily, "You little kiddo, I, the great Newbies, am not bored enough to bicker with you. Right now, everyone should just quickly think of ideas, best to contact the Grand Elder. Otherwise, if Jianshan doesn't hand over the winged tiger god, perhaps he really will be in danger." Jianshan sandwiched the cub tightly in his armpit. He wielded the dragon-slaying sword tightly in his right hand, and the soaring presence he gave off radiated into the distance. He seemed to completely fuse with the surrounding space, becoming one with it. He flew into the distance silently. His speed was very fast, so fast that only a blurry afterimage could be seen. Behind him, the member of the Gilligan clan maintained a sneer. He followed behind him unhurriedly. With his strength as a Saint King, he did not worry about Jianshan escaping, as he was only a Saint ruler of the 1st heavenly layer escaping. After a mere few breaths, Jianshan had already appeared over several dozen kilometers away, far away from the base of the flame mercenaries. The prosperous and lively city below him had also disappeared, replaced by a desolate grassland. "Jianshan, it's peaceful enough here. There's no need to worry about slaughtering innocent people and suffering celestial decay. Let's handle our business here." At this moment, Jianshan suddenly heard the voice of the Gilligan clan member. When he had finished speaking, Jianchen saw that the Gilligan clan member, who was supposed to be behind him, had suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path. Jianchen's reaction was very fast, coming to a screeching stop. He shot a swift but forceful glance at the middle-aged man, and his expression was extremely solemn. The chaotic Knighten in his dantian began to spit out large amounts of chaotic force soon after. The vast chaotic force quickly surged about in Jianchen's body, reaching every corner in his body, and increasing the defense of the chaotic body to the limit. Another strand of chaotic force directly surged into his right arm, before being poured into the dragon-slaying sword. The blurry glittering glow of the dragon-slaying sword was suppressed and replaced by a dark, beautiful glow. At the same time, a presence of destruction began to radiate from the dragon-slaying sword, causing the surrounding space to greatly warp. At that moment, Jianchen had already adjusted his body to the peak condition, completely ready to use all of his strength. He did not dare to hold back at all, as he knew that this battle perhaps would be his toughest and most hopeless battle in his life. The Gilligan clan member ridiculed as he stared at Jianchen. Interesting. Who would have thought that a first heavenly layer saint ruler, like you, would be giving off a presence comparable to a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler? You really are the cream of the crop for the humans. No wonder Rum Guinness would give her own cup to you to look after. However, do you think that you can resist against me with just that little power? Such arrogance. The magical beast's tone was filled with disdain. Jianchen said nothing. He stared fixedly at the member of the Gilligan clan, before suddenly giving out a great roar. Even more chaotic force flowed from his body into the dragon-slaying sword. The dark glow of the dragon-slaying sword immediately began to increase, and the presence of destruction suddenly increased multiple times on end. Afterwards he swung out. A sword chi completely composed of chaotic force shot out from the dragon-slaying sword, cutting through space. It shot towards the magical beast like nothing short of a thunderbolt. Jianchen had put everything into the strike. It was his greatest attack with the strength he currently possessed. The member of the Gilligan clan revealed a sneer. He clenched his hand softly, and the space in front immediately began to solidify. The terrifying sword chi from Jianchen was forcefully frozen in the space, unable to move at all. Shortly afterwards, the frozen space directly shattered, and with it, the sword chi completely dispersed. Jianchen had poured all his strength into the strike, yet it was actually unable to even approach the magical beast from the Gilligan clan. He only needed to move slightly to completely nullify Jianchen's attack, without using much strength at all. Seeing what had happened, Jianchen immediately became overwhelmed by despair. Shortly afterwards, he did not hesitate, and immediately turned around to escape. He became one with the surrounding space, using spatial force to escape into the distance, akin to a lightning bolt. You want to escape in my presence? You have no right. The Gilligan clan member stared at Jianchen in disdain, before swinging his hand to cut open the space in front of him, creating a space gate. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Jianchen, blocking his way once again. Jianchen, I've already given you an opportunity. It was you who failed to appreciate my kindness. Since it's like that, don't blame me for being impolite. The Gilligan clan member spoke expressionlessly, before directly throwing a punch at Jianchen, who was several hundred meters away. The simple-looking punch actually carried much of the mysteries of the world. As he struck out the blow, time seemed to suffer a short pause. A shapeless energy directly pierced through space, striking Jianchen like a lightning bolt. It landed square on his chest. Wretch! Jianchen was unable to defend against it at all, and violently vomited a mouthful of blood. It transformed into a mist in the air. The chaotic body he relied most upon was already shattered, with a cavity appearing on his chest. Through the hole, the scenery behind Jianchen could actually be seen. The powerful force directly caused Jianchen to smash into the ground, creating a great crater below. He sank deeply into the ground. The Gilligan clan member slowly floated down. He observed Jianchen, who was embedded deeply in the crater, with a cold gaze, and mumbled, "This kid is not normal. Not only does the power he controls is powerful and weird, even his body is abnormal. Since a grievance has already been formed between us today, I can't leave you alive. Otherwise, when you become strong, you'll look for me for revenge. Whatever, since I've already stepped into the Tianyuan continent, I might as well just eliminate you and prevent some future trouble. Having you mature would be bad. The Gilligan clan member gently waved his hand, and the still sleeping tiger cub immediately floated out from the crater. It immediately flew towards the magical beast. At the same time, a great power had already coalesced in his right hand, ready to end what he started and properly kill off Jian Chen. However, just when the tiger cub began to approach the Gilligan clan member, a shadow appeared in the originally brightly lit sky. Chapter 691. Houston. The blazing sun in the sky disappeared at that moment, and the originally bright sky was suddenly shrouded by darkness. The darkness was stifling, as if an apocalypse had occurred. Also, the moving air from before froze at that moment. It seemed as if time had been frozen. The tiger cub that was originally floating towards the magical beast from the Gilligan clan immediately stopped, before being guided to the nearby grass by an invisible force. The expression of the magical beast became extremely ugly. There was unconcealed shock in his gaze, because his body was currently tightly bound by an unimaginably great power. No matter how he tried, he was unable to move or break free of it. Bastard! What are the chances for me to meet experts of the human world in such a desolate place? The member of the Gilligan clan was enraged. The strength of the hidden person who moved against him caused him to be terrified. He had not even appeared, yet he already completely immobilized him. Just what kind of strength did he possess? Member of the Gilligan clan, you have broken our original agreement by entering the world of humans. According to the agreement, I have the right to kill you. An old, mighty voice originated from the sky. The cold tone was filled with awe, and shortly afterwards, 100-meter-long spatial crack suddenly appeared in the sky. An extremely ordinary-looking hoe, still caked in mud, transformed into a black ray, striking the magical beast from the Gilligan clan like a lightning bolt. The Gilligan clan member was trapped, unable to move at all. As a result, he could only watch helplessly as the hoe struck him in the chest. Bang! With a muffled sound, a head-sized hole appeared in the chest of the Gilligan clan member. His body of a Class 8 magical beast seemed to become tofu in front of the hoe, easily having a hole punched through it by the hoe that seemed to be completely made of ordinary metal. The Gilligan clan member spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was still trapped by the invisible force, unable to move at all. Who are you? Are you the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, or from the 10 great Guardian clans? The Gilligan clan member roared at the sky as he stared in shock. With his current strength, he was actually completely suppressed by the opponent. Humans who possessed such strength could be counted with fingers. Other than the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, only the 10 Guardian clans possessed such peerless experts. The magical beast did not receive a reply. The hoe radiated with a dark light. Powerful dark attributed Saint Force actually melded together with World Force miraculously, and it was actually much more powerful than any other force. Shortly afterwards, the hoe was swung towards the magical beast's head, as if it was plowing the ground. Roar! A great tiger roar originated from the Gilligan clan member's mouth, before he was shrouded by golden light. In that moment, he became a huge, golden tiger a dozen meters long, with his fur radiating with dazzling gold light. It was extremely blinding, and shortly afterwards, the body of the giant tiger shook, actually breaking free from the invisible restraints. He regained his mobility, before immediately dodging to the side. The hoe dug into the giant tiger's tail, causing the several-meter-thick tail to be chopped into 2 parts. It caused the member of the Gilligan clan to cry out in pain. After the strike, the hoe did not pause. It continued to radiate with dark light, swinging towards the head of the giant tiger. At the same time, the surrounding space quickly froze as if it was a block of ice, restraining the giant tiger again. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. The golden tiger spoke in human language, before giving out a long roar at the sky. His body was enveloped by a bright blood-red light, and with a red flash, the giant tiger disappeared. He had used a secret technique to escape. That's a high-level secret technique for escape from the Beast clan. Humph, who would have thought he would use such a self-cannibalizing secret technique to escape? Even if you escape this time, your strength will fall from the second heavenly layer to the first heavenly layer as a Saint King. The old voice resounded gently in the sky. Afterwards, the host stopped mid-air before transforming into a black blur, disappearing into the huge crack in the sky. At the same time, the darkness quickly receded, allowing the world to recover its original brightness. Jianshan floated slowly out of the crater and landed gently on the ground. However, at this moment, he was unconscious, unaware of what was happening around him. What a weird power and strong body. To be actually rejuvenating from such a heavy injury. Looks like he'll fully recover in no time. The old voice resounded in the empty space again. The origins of it were unknown, without any trace at all. Shortly afterwards, the old voice resounded again. Tianjian, you've been hiding for so long. Isn't it about time for you to come out? As soon as he finished speaking, a space gate formed swiftly. Tianjian floated out of the space gate in white clothes. He stared calmly at the opposite crack in space and said, Houston, we haven't met in over 1,000 years. Who would have thought that we would meet again under such circumstances? You really surprised me with protecting Jianshan secretly. The space crack quickly formed into a space gate, and an old man in extremely simple clothes walked out. He was barefooted and his feet were covered in mud. The hoe which he had used to injure the Gilligan clan was currently lugged casually over his shoulder. He seemed just like an old farmer. Jianshan is friends with my grandson, as well as someone I regard as important, so I naturally will protect him and not let him die. Tianjian, why do you protect Jianshan? With your strength, you should know the secret of the winged tiger god. Perhaps your mercenary city wants to steal the winged tiger god when it's still young and raise it yourself? Once the winged tiger god is fully grown, it's extremely powerful. Houston said calmly. Back then, the city lord left behind a law in the Grand Elder's laws, that mercenary city must never treat the winged tiger gods as an enemy, and when a winged tiger god did appear, we have to help it mature with all of our ability. I'm only carrying out the city lord's orders. Speaking up to there, Tianjian paused. He looked at the unconscious Jianshan on the ground and continued. Also, Jianshan's talent is unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. He will definitely surpass us in the future, so I naturally have to protect him. When he truly steps into the peak, it will be a fortune for us humans. Perhaps, he will become an important figure in resisting against the beast god continent in the future. Tianjian paused, before continuing. Houston, looks like you've discovered the identity of the winged tiger god before me. A few days ago, your Bloodsword sect has appeared again and again along the sea. They should be monitoring the beast god continent. Houston nodded slightly, correct. I believe the peace of our Tianyuan continent will be shattered in the not-so-distant future. Chapter 692. Conversation. Houston nodded slightly, correct. I believe the peace of our Tianyuan continent will be shattered in the not-so-distant future. Looks like you've also guessed that the matter of the Gilligan clan against the winged tiger god is much more complicated. That's true. Peace will be broken soon, and the silent guardian clans will all appear once again. Houston, I know you've already retired from the Tianyuan continent for 1,000 years, but you are still a human expert who stands on the peak. When the beast god continent invades, I hope that your Bloodsword sect will be able to support our Tianyuan continent to make a contribution to the human race. Tianjian said solemnly to Houston. Houston nodded calmly. You don't have to worry. Although I, Houston, have once sworn that I would never interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent again 1,000 years ago, this regards the safety of the human race. I definitely will not stand down. That'll be good. With your Bloodsword sect helping, our power in resisting the beast god continent will increase quite a lot. Although we know that the beast god continent is coming for the winged tiger god, we definitely can't let them obtain it. I think that the king of the beast god continent wants to seize the growing winged tiger god and forcefully possess its body. Looks like you've thought into this more than me. Originally, I thought that King of Beast God Continent wanted to kill the young winged tiger god to maintain his position and power. Looks like it's much more complicated than I imagined. Houston sighed. It indeed is much more complicated than you have imagined. Tianjin looked deeply into Houston. He hesitated slightly before continuing. Houston, perhaps you don't know, but the previous winged tiger god had once left a shrine on the beast god continent in the ancient times, and he left his legacy in the shrine. However, other than winged tiger gods, no other magical beast is able to enter it, unless their strength surpasses the one that created it, in which they can just forcefully break through the shrine's barrier. As for the king of beast god continent, once it possessed the body of the winged tier god, he can successfully inherit the legacy, very possibly reaching the strength that the ancient winged tiger god had reached. At that time, we humans will no longer possess the power to resist at all. Houston's expression became extremely serious. Floating midair, he said nothing, and only after a long time did he give a deep sigh at the sky. Looks like we definitely have to use all our strength to protect this winged tiger god. We mustn't let the beast god continent obtain it. Now that we humans no longer have an expert like Mo Tianyin, once the king of beast god continent possesses the body of the winged tiger god, even the path lord of carnal desires wouldn't be his opponent. Hearing the name, Tianjin furrowed his brows. Pausing for a moment, he said, "Don't rely on the path lord of carnal desires. That renegade was expelled from the Pure Heart Pavilion and walks a path of desire, indulging in the 7 emotions and 6 desires. If he knows about the winged tiger god, perhaps he'll immediately go and try take it for himself. The behavior of the Lord may be despicable, but he really is a great genius. At least, he is the only person of the Tianyuan continent who can resist against the king of beast god continent. Perhaps in the future when the beast god continent invades, we'll need to rely on the path lord to fend him off." Houston muttered to himself. "AI." Tianjin sighed softly and waved his hands. "Houston, our conversation today ends here. In the future when the beast god continent displays signs of movement, we can discuss about it with the people from the 10 guardian clans. Anyway, the better kept the secret of the winged tiger god, the better it is for the Tianyuan continent. As for the current moment, we should pour all our power into the growth of the winged tiger god. Right now it's just too weak. These years your mercenary city should have amassed a lot of heavenly material treasures, so giving your mercenary city the task of helping the winged tiger god grow is most suitable. Also, you should stay behind and handle the rest of the stuff that happened here. You're more suitable than me." Finishing his sentence, Houston turned around and disappeared through the space gate. As for Tianjin, he just stood there. Tianjin looked at the unconscious Jian Chun on the ground with a complicated gaze. Afterwards, he sighed lightly, and with the wave of his hand, Jian Chun and the winged tiger god immediately began to float, passing through a space gate behind Tianjin. Amidst the flame mercenaries, Ming Dong's group currently remained gathered together in the hall, anxious to find a way to save Jian Chun. Even though they had several saint rulers around, they were weak like ants in front of a saint king. Even if they worked together, they definitely were not a saint king's opponent. Just at this moment, the space in the hall suddenly began to warp without any prior warnings. Before anyone could react, a space gate quickly formed and Tianjin gently floated out of it. Beside his side, the unconscious Jian Chun was entrusted to an invisible power, slowly lowered to the ground. "Uncle Tian." Seeing the middle-aged man, Ming Dong was greatly excited and immediately began to call out aloud. Shortly afterwards, he rushed and grabbed Tianjin's arm affectionately. He glanced over at the heavily injured and unconscious Jian Chun. "Uncle Tian, you finally come. I just know you were going to appear. How is Jian Chun? Is he okay?" Facing Ming Dong, Tianjin struggled to maintain his indifferent expression and could not help but reveal a warm smile. He looked at Ming Dong lovingly. "Child, you don't need to worry. Jian Chun is fine." Towards Ming Dong, Tianjin showed extra affection. I pay respects to the Grand Elder. Jeditai and newbies both recognized Tianjian. Without any more delays, they immediately bowed. Their expressions were filled with respect. Junior Bai Hai pays respects to Grand Elder. I thank the Grand Elder very much for saving my great-grandson. Bai Hai did not hesitate at all and bowed respectfully to Tianjian. With what had happened last time in the sky about the tungsten alloy mine, he had seen the Grand Elder personally, so he was not unfamiliar as to who he was. Chapter 693. Warning. Tianjian stared at Bai Hai with a rather astonished gaze. He was obviously extremely surprised by the fact that Bai Hai was Jianqin's grandfather. But he did not continue that topic. He gently waved his hand and said, "Everyone should disperse and find a place for Jianqin to rest quietly. I know what happened here before. You mustn't tell others about this. Keep that in mind. Junior understands and definitely will not let any part of it leak out." Newbies, Jeditai and the others all said respectfully with their hands clasped. Afterwards, Mingdong personally carried Jianqin into his bedroom, while Tianjian, Huangwan, Yu Bai Liang, Little Fatty and the others followed behind. Looking at him lying on the bed unconscious and smeared with blood, Huangwan, Yu and Bai Lian all began crying painfully. They were some of the people who cared the most for Jianqin. So Jianqin's miserable appearance caused the three girls to be deeply pained and heartbroken. Afterwards, Huangwan immediately removed several Class 6 Radiant Spirit pills from her space ring to feed to Jianqin, hoping that his injuries would quickly recover. Don't feed it to him. Jianqin's body is extremely peculiar and possesses very great regeneration abilities. His injuries are currently healing very quickly, and he should completely recover without much time. Tianjian stopped what Huangwan was doing and explained indifferently. Huangwan paused for a moment, before finally putting the Radiant Spirit pills away. "Uncle Tian, I just knew you would come. This time, we were fortunate to have you. Otherwise Jianqin really would have been in grave danger." Mingdong looked at Tianjian with gratitude. However, there was still lingering fear. He struggled to imagine just what would happen to Jianqin if Tianjian did not appear on time. Tianjian smiled. "Jianqin is a great genius of our Tianyuan continent. His talent is unprecedented, and his future achievements have no limit. If such a genius really dies when he is young, our Tianyuan continent would suffer a great loss. Don't worry, your Uncle Tian will not just let Jianqin be harmed without doing anything." "Uncle Tian, so you've always been secretly protecting Jianqin." Mingdong was delighted. With this, did it not meant that Jianqin would not meet any more life-threatening dangers on the Tianyuan continent? Tianjian smiled, but he did not make any confirming gestures. Actually, ever since he discovered Jianqin could see and communicate with the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, he had already began to view Jianqin with great importance and left an extremely obscure imprint on Jianqin. When Jianqin's life really was in danger, he would appear and help out. Learning that the Grand Elder of Mercenary City was secretly protecting Jianqin, Bai Lian, Yu and Huangwan were secretly delighted. They were extremely happy, because they knew that with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City behind him, it would become Jianqin's greatest safeguard in the future. Just at this moment, Jianqin's finger twitched slightly. Shortly afterwards, his eyes slowly opened, and he looked around in confusion. When he saw Tianjian, he immediately understood what had happened. With a weak voice he said hurriedly, "Thank you, Senior, for saving me. Jianqin, you're finally awake. Brother, you're awake." With Jianqin waking up, it was a pleasant surprise to everyone. They all gathered by Jianqin's bed to ask about how he felt. They cared for him very much. Jianqin sat up on the bed with some difficulty. The concern that everyone showed for him filled his heart with warmth. He said, "Everyone doesn't need to worry, I'm fine." With that, Jianqin suddenly remembered something. He glanced around frantically, and only relaxed slightly after seeing the tiger sleeping by his side. He lifted up the white tiger softly and muttered, "Luckily Xiaobai wasn't been taken away by that king from the Gilligan clan. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster." "Jianqin, just what identity does Xiaobai possess?" How did it attract a king from the Gilligan clan to come and take him? Ming Dong stared at the white tiger and asked curiously. Hearing that, Jianshan hesitated. It was not because he did not want to tell Ming Dong, but rather, he really could not let any more people know about the identity of the white tiger. Seeing how Jianshan was stuck between a rock and a hard place, Tianjian intervened in time. Child, you don't need to know about this. You all should forget about what happened before. Don't talk about it in the future. Okay, everyone should get out. I have some things I need to discuss personally with Jianshan. Yes, Uncle Tian. Ming Dong replied obediently, before leaving with his curiosity and everyone else. However, after what had happened, everyone already knew that the identity of the white tiger was a secret and definitely was not as simple as it seemed. When Ming Dong and the others had left, a clear barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping the entire room. The barrier was created personally by Tianjian, isolating the entire room. Even Saint Kings would not be able to overhear what was being discussed inside. Senior, what do you want to discuss with Junior? Seeing how careful Tianjian was, Jianshan's expression also became serious. Tianjian stared at the tiger in Jianshan's arms with a complicated gaze. Only after some time did he give a soft sigh. Jianshan, there's not much time left. You must let the winged tiger god grow up quickly. Otherwise, your time with it will not last much longer. Jianshan's expression changed slightly. He asked, Senior, has it got to do with the Gilligan clan? This matter is not as simple as you have imagined it. Threats to the winged tiger god come from all directions, and they're not necessarily threats you can handle. Tianjian paused for a little before continuing. Looks like there's some things I should explain to you, Jianshan. The Gilligan clan actually is just a chess piece left on the Tianyuan continent by the beast god continent, and the Gilligan clan, trying to obtain the winged tiger god, is probably just due to the command of the ruler of the beast god continent. As a result, although the Gilligan clan has been repelled this time, experts from the beast god continent will come to our Tianyuan continent very soon. Although the threat from the beast god continent will be handled by the guardian clans of the Tianyuan continent, the matter concerning the winged tiger god is extremely important. If it's leaked out and the guardian clans learn about it, they will definitely be interested in the winged tiger god after they successfully repel the tide of the beast god. At that time, if you don't have enough power, you'll just become a fish, being carved up by anybody. Even my mercenary city will not be able to help you. Tianjian's tone was very serious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.